Get your game on at the Fanatic Sportsbook in the Gallery at Ocean Casino Resort. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com.
South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program? Yeah.
97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort studio, here's Mike Gill.
Hump Day Wednesday edition of The Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Well, Mike's youth baseball team continues their run through the brackets. We are here talking about the Phillies continuing to win games. We will talk about the Eagles, Patriots joint practice day number 1. Jam-packed show for all of you today on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up at 2:30, the Athletic National NFL writer Jacob Robinson joins us to talk about the NFC East and get a former lawyer's perspective on the whole NFL going international. We got the Vic Fangio presser. He had some interesting things to say before today's joint practices. That's coming up at 3 o'clock. Mike McGarry with the press of Atlantic City. He is back to talk to more Phillies with us at 3:30. At 4 o'clock, we will hear from Adam Caplan live from Foxborough, Massachusetts. He was on the ground, present and accounted for today's joint practices. Day 1 between the Eagles and the Patriots. Knicks Nuggets are back at 4:30. Dave Gallagher will join us. Mike Gill might not be here, but Dave Gallagher is still here. A player's perspective on the Phillies' offensive turnaround. Oscar Budejen, as always. The Phillies fastball today at 5:30 on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios, and as always, you will check in on the text board throughout the show at 609-403-0973. On the White Horse RV text board, the Williamstown and Galloway, your RV adventure starts here at White Horse RV. And we'll get to the NFL stuff in just a little bit, but I got to open talking about the Phillies. We asked the question yesterday. Are you starting to believe in the Phillies again? And I'm watching the game last night, and I'm watching kind of how it played out, right? And there's two different stories, for me at least, to last night's game. The first story of last night's game is, here's the offense again. Did you know that the Philadelphia Phillies have not scored fewer than 5 runs in any game that they have won? That's the key caveat. Every game that they have won, they have scored at least 5 runs. The last time they won a game and scored fewer than 5 runs was July 11th. Yes, folks, the Phillies, when they're winning games now, their offense is propelling them to victories. Now, listen, we all know they're not always scoring 5 or more runs. It was just last Wednesday that they lost 7-1 in St. Louis. But in the games they're winning, the offense is putting together really good at bats. The offense is having a good approach at the plate. And that's one of the reasons why I'm excited that Dave Gallagher is joining the show today, because this is a guy, Dave Gallagher, who played at the major league level. So he can kind of give us better insight on how a team can go from being so horrible at their plate approach day in and day out to all of a sudden looking like one of the most reliable teams in all of baseball. Because it's really the offense that is propelling them. And that's the other side of the coin. Another rough outing for Zach Wheeler. Now, he allowed fewer runs this time, but it looked like he struggled to get through 5 innings. Now, we were asking Oscar Budejen on yesterday's Phillies Fastball. He is going to the idea that it's the dog days of summer, that it's the time of year that guys are just kind of struggling to get through to the end. But this whole Wheeler situation does have me concerned. I don't know if it's just dog days of summer. Because if you go through all of Zach Wheeler's starts since the All-Star break, there's only a couple of starts where he has allowed 2 or fewer runs. Last night, the game in Baltimore, which he didn't pitch the whole game, in part because of the weather situation. And then on July 21st, against the Dodgers, he allowed 5 runs to the Marlins a couple weeks ago. He allowed 4 runs against Toronto. And in St. Louis, he had 4 earned runs, 5 overall. So is it just dog days of summer, or is there some sort of we should be concerned about with Zach Wheeler? I don't know the exact answer to that, but I'm just putting it out there because one thing that Zach Wheeler doesn't do very often is allow home runs. And ever since he returned from all the health issues he had last year and the complicated surgery, he has had some great outings. But other outings, he's been a little rough around the edges. I'm specifically looking at home runs. Historically, Zach Wheeler has not been a guy that has given up a lot of home runs historically. He gives them up here and there, but you don't look at Zach Wheeler like Aaron Nola. Like Aaron Nola is a guy that gives up long balls seemingly all the time. But right now, Zach Wheeler on the year has started 21 games, and he's given up 15 home runs. Now, usually if Zach Wheeler gives up home runs, it's over the course of a season, right? You know, in 2023 and 2024, when he's giving you 32 starts a year, and then he gives you 20 home runs allowed, you're like, all right, it's spread out throughout the year. In past years, when opposing teams have made contact against him, it's been infrequent, right? Just go to last year. He allowed 107 hits and 149 innings pitched. The year before, 139 hits and 200 innings pitched. Usually a pretty sizable gap, right? This year, it's 88 and 120 and a third. So the gap has been closed. I'm not hitting the panic button on Zach Wheeler yet, but I'm hoping last night was the turnaround for him. Because the Phillies can live with only allowing 2 runs. Especially when the bullpen, for the most part, does their job, right? And again, I'm not trying to paint like an ugly picture or anything, okay? I'm not trying to be that guy. But really last night, there were, outside of Zach Wheeler's 5 innings, there were only 2 innings where runs were scored. And one of them was on a throwing error. The other one was a pretty simple base hit. So who are the pitchers in those situations? Alex McFarland and Orion Kerkering. Now, I've always said I don't have a ton of faith in this Phillies bullpen. It's part of the reason why I have not been able to fully invest myself in getting on the Phillies bandwagon. But last night, you do got to give them credit. Because for the most part, they did their job. It's not McFarland's fault that Arias had a throwing error. And frankly, I think we all should be happy that Alvarado did his job last night. That was a first, right? Didn't get any strikeouts, but he still got the job done. I was a little disappointed in Kerkering because I felt like he got through the first two hitters and then he kind of like stumbled over himself. And then the error by Kerkering was kind of an ominous moment because we all remember what happened in the playoffs last year. So to me, I feel like last night overall, the Phillies deserve a lot of credit in terms of finding a way to win. But I'm still nervous with the bullpen. I'm still curious to find out what Zach Wheeler is long-term. But to me, the hitting, another great night for the Phillies hitters. Another great night for the Phillies offense to propel them to a win. The Phillies 4 through 6 hitters. Just 4 through 6. Let's throw out 1 through 3. Because Trey Turner, again, he had a rough night at the office. And Harper got 2 walks. He was getting on base again for the 22nd straight game. But it's the guys after the big 3 that had a big night last night. Luis Arias, Alec Bohm, and Bryson Stott combined to go 6 for 11 with 4 RBI and a walk between the 3 of them. The Luis Arias edition is turning out to be a much bigger deal than maybe we previously gave it weight to, because he has lengthened their lineup. He has put Bohm and Stott in a position where there's less pressure on them. And while JT Realmuto's back continues to be a waste in the Phillies lineup, it's the guys that got pushed down the lineup that are benefiting from at least, what a concept. You add 1 hitter and it helps the lineup. What a concept. And Arias, look, the dude's a professional hitter. And you saw last night how Harper getting on base, Luis Arias punished the Marlins for walking Harper. And you got to think moving forward, more Arias hitting is probably going to be a positive long-term for the Phils. You let me know what you guys think on the Whitehorse RV text board, 609-403-0973. Whitehorse RV Centers in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here at Whitehorse RV, 609-403-0973. That's the baseball side of the conversation. Now the football side. The Philadelphia Eagles are a team that I feel like no matter what is said and done, people are going to be critical. But I think Philadelphia showed you at today's joint practice that they are moving in the right direction. And the players seem to verbalize that as well. You heard guys like Quinyon Mitchell and Jalen Hurts after the practice talk about how they feel like they're moving in the right direction. And there were some big moments in the practice, like Quinyon Mitchell breaking up a pass to A.J. Brown, but then A.J. Brown burning Reek Woolen. Read into that what you will. The Eagles defense got a stop against New England on the final drive of the joint practice. And Hurts had some nice throws. But I think the biggest takeaway from Eagles practice is the conversation we had yesterday about what is the offense here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a hump day Wednesday of the Bash. Jalen Hurts had multiple passes to Saquon Barkley and Will Shipley. We talked about yesterday, one of the criticisms of the Eagles offense in the past was the fact that there was this belief that Jalen Hurts was a guy who just refused to throw the ball down to the check down or to the hot route. And then we played the audio from Lane Johnson when he was speaking with Bo Allen on the Greenlay Pod, where Lane Johnson explained that the Eagles offense actually was telling Jalen Hurts to not throw to the hot down or the check down.
Before that, we basically tried to never let the quarterback throw hot. We tried to pick up all the protections, and Kelson can't. You got to be a wizard in the middle. It's an order,
especially some of these exotic blitzes you get from D coordinators like Florida.
So think about that. Lane Johnson's admitting, hey man, before we basically told Jalen, don't go to the hot route because we're going to pick up the blitz and allow you have time to let these long plays develop. And how many times I complained last year in the Kevin Patullo offense here on 97.3 ESPN. I kept saying, these plays are taking too long to develop. You're asking the quarterback to hold the ball too long. Well, Lane Johnson is saying that was the design of the offense. And now all of a sudden today at joint practice, what is Jalen doing? See Saquon and Will Shipley open, running backs open, dump it off. And then when he does throw the deep ball, who did he hit at practice today? Elijah Moore. Who else did he hit at practice today? Darius Cooper. It sounds to me like all of those workouts that Jalen and his receivers had this offseason is paying off. And we had this conversation as well last week. Who is the receiver who's going to step up who's not named Devontae Smith and Dontavian Wicks in the absence of Mekhi Lemon? And it's starting to look like between training camp practices and now today's joint practice that Elijah Moore and Darius Cooper are carving out roles for themselves in this offense. Because the premise of the offense, as Landon Dickerson explained as we played the audio yesterday from the Greenlay Pod, they're trying to play fast and do less thinking pre-snap.
The 3-point stance thing is an adjustment, but again, it's just I think the focus is a lot more on getting to the ball and playing fast versus, a past system with a lot of problem solving at the line of scrimmage, and this is more just kind of let's get up there and just, run our plays. And, if the defense can't get set or stem the front, Vic loves to do all that sort of stuff. So, big thing is just if we can get up there and catch them before they can get adjusted, that's kind of a big philosophy of this offense.
Yeah. And you saw that happen in real action at today's joint practice. The Eagles are trying to run a style of offense that is less about long developing plays. Nope, we're done with that. Tons of overthinking and analysis for the snap. Nope, we're done with that. Less thinking, more football. And I think that is the beauty of what Sean Mannion is bringing to Philadelphia here. Is that Sean Mannion, as a former quarterback, is telling his quarterback, look, Jalen, I'm telling you right now, we got to get you away from all of this over-analysis at the line. Because I think Sean Mannion, when he reviewed the tape, saw what I saw, what Kurt Warner saw, what Dan Orlovsky saw. He saw what Richard Sherman on Amazon Prime talked about. He saw what other people have analyzed about Jalen Hurts. that the longer he holds the ball, the worse decisions he makes. Not because he's a bad player, but because of the fact that he is somebody who is, when he's decisive, he's really good. But when he's having to think and process or absorb too much information, it's not as good. And now you got to think back to who Jalen has had success with as a player. So right now he's got a former quarterback in Sean Mannion. Before that, when they won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, who was the offensive coordinator? Kellen Moore, former quarterback. All right. Who did they have success with before that? Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen played quarterback for 3 years at UNLV. So wait, are we sensing a pattern here now? So every time Jalen Hurts has had success in the NFL before Sean Mannion came here, he had guys who were former quarterbacks in his ear. How about before the NFL? What did he have? Well, his best year was with Lincoln Riley. Well, Lincoln Riley was a star quarterback in high school and was a walk-on quarterback at Texas Tech. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sensing a pattern. There were a lot of us who were critical of the Eagles when they handed the job of coaching the offense in past years for nepotism and in-house hires. Well, it looks like to me that the Eagles are going to have a lot of success this year with another guy from outside the organization who has a background at playing quarterback, speaking to the quarterback. Josh Hennig hanging out with you, filling in for Mike Gill on 973 ESPN FM, the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And we are streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. We'll check back in as well as the comments on the YouTube stream throughout the hour. Of course, the Sports Bash being brought to you by Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant and the Boathouse Restaurant at the foot of the Wildwood and Rio Grande Boulevard Bridge. Yes, right there in Wildwood. You get to the bottom of the bridge, you make a little right on the pull-off right there. Boom. Yuri's Restaurant and the Boathouse Restaurant right there in Wildwood. The seafood extraordinary, the value tremendous, the sunsets on the house. And don't forget about the Sliders Bar, where you can watch every Phillies and Eagles game right there at Yuri's in Wildwood. Always great food, always a great experience. So whether you want to slide into the Sliders Bar or watch the game on the back deck, Yuri's is there for you. The best of the Jersey Shore is a Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant and the Boathouse in Wildwood. We'll continue the football conversation coming up on the other side. Jacob Robinson from The Athletic joins us to talk more football right here with me, Josh Hennig, hanging out with you on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
We have the Phillies covered.
Swing and a drive, right field, way back, forget it, out of here. Kyle Schwarber hammers one over the right field wall.
Get the best Phillies baseball coverage on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
For over 135 years, First Bank of Sea Isle City has proudly served Cape May County with a commitment to maintaining a hometown feel. We provide secure, convenient deposit and loan products every day. We're more than just a bank. We're a trusted community partner, offering personalized banking solutions that make life easier for local families of all ages. First Bank of Sea Isle City. Look for our lighthouse in your neighborhood and discover what makes us different.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Filling marble and tile, transforming spaces into beautiful places.
Hey, it's Joe Kelly. Filling Marble and Tile Retail Outlet in South Jersey is a premier family-owned stone dealer and installation expert. Residences, businesses, hospitals, schools, Atlantic City casinos, and more have trusted Filling Marble for quality marble, granite, and tile. Stop by today.
Filling marble and tile, transforming spaces into beautiful places.
See them online at fillingmarble.com.
2:31 here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig, Philly for Mike Gill, 973 ESPN FM, 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And yes, as always, we are streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. Whitehorse RV text board is open at 609-403-0973. Yes, Whitehorse RV Centers in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here at Whitehorse RV. Jeff from Ocean City chimes in. Says, I've stayed with the Phillies during the ups and downs. Baseball is a long season. The lineup is now beginning to gel. And Jeff, what I think is interesting about talking about the lineup, and we'll go back to the football conversation just a bit, but what's interesting about the Phillies lineup is you're saying they're just now beginning to gel, to which I would ask the question, is the Phillies lineup gelling because of the aforementioned Don Mattingly heart-to-heart meeting with the players? Is it guys like Brandon Marsh and Bryce Harper basically saying, we need help and we better just step up and do it ourselves? Or did Luis Arias propel this team to this point? I think that's where I don't know where we draw the line, Jeff, in Ocean City. But listen, I'm happy they're gelling. I'm happy they're scoring 5 or more runs in every win. And maybe, as you're saying, baseball's a long season. And that if we just give this team time to put themselves together, hopefully the version of the team we're watching during this 5-game winning streak is the team that we're going to see when we get to the postseason. All right, we'll do more talk about the Phillies coming up a little bit later. The Whitehorse RV text board is open at 609-403-0973. But right now, let's get back to the football. Joining us right now to talk more about the NFC East in the NFL is Jacob Robinson from The Athletic, covers the league, as well as being a former full-time lawyer. He joins us right now on 97.3 ESPN. Jacob, welcome in. Appreciate you jumping on. How you doing today?
My pleasure, man. It's a good time of year. Football's around the corner and everyone's optimistic.
Absolutely. And what I wanted to start with you before we got specifically to, what you wrote about the NFC East over The Athletic is, there's a lot of conversation going on right now about this whole situation with the league going international. I kind of wanted to get, not just your NFL take, but maybe a little bit of a legal perspective, because I feel like the part that hasn't gotten talked about is the league may want to put a team international, but I'm assuming there has to be some sort of negotiation with the Players Association to make that official too, right?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. I think it's something a lot of people are missing. I mean, the whole reason the NFL has been so successful was because back in the 60s, they got the Sports Broadcasting Act passed in the U.S. They did a lot of lobbying against antitrust rules, really, so that they could create a system, almost like a closed system, where now you can have contracts like they have with the NFL rookie contracts that you don't see in everyday life. And that's a big reason why the NFL has been so successful, is the money that they have coming in from broadcasting. Once you open that internationally and you have a team based in Europe, are you going to follow the EU's laws? Are you going to get a new act enacted there? What's that going to look like? Not to mention all the tax considerations. I mean, we see this in the NBA, where if a player's in Texas versus playing, let's say, for the Toronto Raptors, they're getting taxed much more. So it makes one team much more desirable than the other. And now you've got a league where I'd say 99.9% of players are born in the United States. How many of those players are going to want to go play for the Frankfurt Galaxy or for the London Royals? I mean, I don't think the numbers are going to be quite high.
My mind also goes back to, I'm glad you mentioned the money part of it. I remember the London Olympics, all the athletes who complained about how they were being for the performance tax over there and how all of them lost a ton of money because the games were in London. Could there be a situation where if they put a team in London, there might be some athletes who are like, I refuse to play for that team no matter how much money you pay me?
Well, and yes, but also it gets even more complicated because even if you're not playing for that team, if you're playing against that team and you go perform in another country, a lot of countries have rules where if you perform in that country, you owe some sort of tax, much like if you work in another country, you often owe tax for that country which you're living in, or working in. So that's an extra layer of complication where you could have a team like, let's say, the Dallas Cowboys that go over and play a team in Berlin. Now all of a sudden you have Berlin tax consequences, not just for the Berlin team, but also for all the players on the Cowboys. So I can see it being a big issue for a lot of players and a lot of teams that I think is getting lost in the idea of it being a good thing.
Is there maybe some part of the reason why they're doing so many games outside of London is maybe the league is exploring to put an international team somewhere that isn't London possibly?
Yeah, I think London's the most likely if I were to guess which one. I mean, Toronto seems like the most logical because the time zone, but honestly, based on what Goodell said to the German broadcasting station, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, it seems like the most likely future is where there's almost I'll call it a European division, where there's 4 teams in Europe that predominantly play each other, but then maybe have a couple, and maybe it's similar to divisions now where they have mostly in-division games, but then external division games as well. And that replaces the current international series style games we have, where there's like 9 or 10 games this year in places like Madrid and all over. So that's a possibility. I think that's the best way you can really do it because it's pretty unfair to have one team in London and then have them flying back and forth all the time.
Talk with the Athletics, Jacob Robinson here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Jacob, I want to get to your article you wrote about the NFC East, your kind of preview article, because there was a comment you made in the article that I think gets overlooked in a lot of our conversations about the Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys and the Commanders. And one of the comments you made in the article, I want to give you the opportunity to expand on it, is you mentioned about how there's so much talent on the Eagles roster. I feel like that gets overlooked sometimes because, if an Eagles fan says that, right, it kind of sounds like, oh, you're just saying that because that's your team, right? But for you to kind of put that out there, it almost sounds like you're saying at the end of the day, the team that probably has the best chance, if all things are equal, everybody stays healthy, is the team with the most talent. And you feel like that's Philadelphia.
I think so, and it's easy to look at teams like the Cowboys and see all the moves that they made on defense, and it's exciting. And I remember last year, and part of the reason why I said that about the Eagles is because last year I wrote a similar thing about the Cowboys, how they made a bunch of moves on defense, that they hope to revamp the unit. They can't be worse than last year. And it turns out they were somehow worse than last year. They were one of the worst defenses in NFL history. And so I think it's easy to look at moves other teams make and get excited about them and then see Philly. It's almost a bit tiring to look at them and see all the talent that they have, take for granted how good of a quarterback Jalen Hurts is, how good of a running back Saquon Barkley is, how good that defense is, and just say, okay, they're boring, penciling them in for 11 wins, 6 losses. It's an easy thing to do. It almost feels lazy in a way, but I think sometimes we overthink in this game when we're trying to project out what's happening. And based on how good the Eagles were last year, based on how many players they're returning from that defense, from that offense. Yes, they've lost A.J. Brown, but this is still a really, really strong roster. And if they can get the run game going, remember, Lane Johnson missed the majority of last season. He's the best right tackle in the league, arguably the Eagles' best offensive player, maybe even best player overall. And so if you miss a player like that, like if the wins were without Matthew Stafford, we'd easily excuse their season. But when the Eagles lose Lane Johnson, we kind of forget how important that is. So I really do think they're going to be one of the better teams in the league again this year, not to mention the NFC East.
Let me back up to something you just said, because you mentioned about Jalen Hurts being a really good quarterback, and that's been a polarizing topic in a lot of corners. We had Mike Sando on a couple of weeks ago. He talked about his quarterback tiers he does each and every year. And, it seems like there's this strange, divide, right? Where it's like you have one group of people who say, hey, Jalen is not as talented as Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen. But you have other people who say, yeah, but all Jalen does is win. He gets his team to the postseason every year. Why do you feel like from your observations there is such a divide on a guy who has a resume that if his name wasn't Jalen Hurts, people might give him more credit?
I think there's two reasons. One is that he doesn't make all the throws that you see a quarterback like Justin Herbert make. He doesn't make the on the run over the middle throws at the consistent level that we've seen from players like Justin Herbert. There aren't those exciting highlight plays that a lot of people, pundits especially, and marvel at sort of the potential and the talent there. So I think that's one of them. But the second reason is that the Eagles have such a good team around him, and we often give more credit to the surroundings than we do the quarterback when teams are playing as well as the Eagles have over the past few years, especially when the quarterback seems to emerge from that. So it's easy to look at a team like the Bills and say, okay, if you switch out Josh Allen with Jalen Hurts, they're going to get worse, right? And the Bills, you add the Eagles, you add Josh Allen, they're going to get a lot better. But I think that's sort of missing the point in that the Eagles have been really good with Jalen Hurts. They started to drop off a little bit with Carson Wentz at the end there, and he stepped up and has been fantastic for them. I mean, the Super Bowl and everything that they've done over the past couple of years has been pretty impressive when you think about where he came into the league at. So I just think it's easy to look at someone like Jalen Hurts and say, oh, he doesn't have all the throws, he doesn't throw across the middle enough. But you've got to take the system that he's in and see how well he's performing in that.
Let's get to the other teams in the NFC East, Jacob. You have the Cowboys projected to finish 9-8 this year because you said it's very simple. If the Cowboys can get decent defensive play, the offense should be able to carry them in many games. So it sounds like you feel like maybe the Cowboys offense is not getting enough credit for their potential. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this was the second best offense in the league last year, and we're looking at the Rams, and they're the Super Bowl favorites. They were so close to making the Super Bowl, and they would have definitely won it had they made it last year, largely due to that offense. Their defense got a lot better, obviously, with Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie. So it's really easy to look at the Rams and say, okay, clear Super Bowl favorites. Cowboys have an offense that was almost as good as the Rams last year. If their defense can get to a point where it's half as good as the Rams, you're going to be in every game, and Jerry Jones famously is all in this season as he has been every year for the past 25 seasons. It hasn't really resulted in anything, but I think to count them out just because we're underrating the offense is going to be a big mistake this year. I think they can keep them in any game they need to. Whether or not the defense can stop opponents from scoring more than 25 points is going to be the question.
Down in Washington, you bring up the point that really scared me about the Commanders, which is the Tunsil injury to me changes everything for that offense. Like on paper, it looks nice that they have added guys like White and Diggs to the offense. But to me, no Tunsil means Jaden Daniels has a chance to get injured again. I think that could be the beginning of the end for their season, right?
It breaks my heart. It's like when you get a new car and you've set everything up nicely, and then the first time you drive it, you get a flat tire, and it's not repairable. Let's say in this case for an entire season, it just takes the wind out of the sails in such a big way. And now you have a lot of pieces in Washington where they could be a good team, but losing your second best offensive player when you have a quarterback who wasn't able to stay healthy last year, when you have a team that was one of the best run games last year and relied so heavily on the run for their offense to work, it's such a shot in the leg for this team. So it really made me sad. I mean, it was so fun watching Jaden Daniels in his rookie season, and now I don't think they're winning more than 5 games this year. It's going to be an uphill battle for that offense.
Finally, with the Giants team that I think is the most fascinating because the John Harbaugh experiment of all this. Can Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo stay healthy? We saw them sign Najee Harris because they just needed a running back who can block, unlike Tyrone Tracy. What is your take on what is the Giants' potential versus what is the reality for that team?
Yeah, I think there's a huge disconnect there. And I'm glad you brought up Tyrone Tracy. That was such a bad missed block that really could have really hurt Jackson Dart. And it seemed like it did in the moment. He's one tough quarterback. But I think the John Harbaugh effect, we saw something similar last year with the Raiders, and it fooled me, honestly. I thought the Raiders were going to have a much better season than they did. They brought in, I'll call him a Ted Lasso-like coach, someone who brings the vibes, puts up the motivational poster, says all the right things, and then maybe doesn't produce results. And that happened with Pete Carroll last year. He came in, he brought his son as offensive line coach. wasn't able to make it work. The offense didn't take a step. The defense was fine, but wasn't good enough to keep them in games. I think we're going to see something similar in New York this year. There's just enough of a lack of talent, enough of a question mark on the offense around Jackson Dart, the sustainability of his play, and whether or not John Harbaugh is a great football coach still. I mean, the Ravens over the past few years were famous for two things: blowing leads and injuries. And what happened to the Giants last year? They blew leads and they got injured. So I'm surprised at how we're penciling in a big improvement from the Giants. You know, the reports from Jackson Dart in training camp have been that, you know, he hasn't been picking up Matt Nagy's offense as well as he could have. We saw Matt Nagy in Kansas City last year. I'd say their offense got worse. He was sort of quietly moving on, I'll say, is a nice way to put it. Maybe he was fired, I don't know. But I really am not too optimistic, unfortunately, this year about the Giants, as much as I can't wait to see Cam Scatterbo back in action.
He's Jacob Robinson. Check out all of his work covering the NFL at The Athletic. Of course, if you don't have an Athletic subscription, I highly recommend you get one for all of your NFL coverage year-round. Jacob, I appreciate you jumping on the show today.
Oh, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And as always, we are streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. Coming up on the other side, it is our Golic Minute. Mike Golic Sr. has, maybe it's a hot take, maybe it's not. I'll let you guys decide. Coming up on the other side here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on Wednesday edition on 97.3 ESPN.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Keeping the fans entertained and happy.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Fantasy football season is here. Book your fantasy football league draft at Chachi's 13th floor, above Villa Raffici and Absecon. For just $20 per person, your draft package includes great food and cold beer. Chachi's 13th floor, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN and the official sports bar industry Ace restaurant.
Go for the fun times and the tan lines. Experience an Atlantic City you never knew. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Ventnor Social is Down Beach's go-to place for game days. No shower happy hours, beach nights, live music, great food, cold drinks, and being social. From cheering on Phillies baseball team and other sports action on their 20 big screen TVs, to enjoying a cold beverage on the roof deck, to playing an arcade game, plus game day food and wing specials, along with other delicious cuisine. Get social at Ventnor Social, Ventnor Avenue in Ventnor. Check out their Facebook page for the latest specials and events.
You're listening to The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
I personally think joint practices are better than preseason games. You get more reps, you can control the situation. Now, you're going to deal with more injuries, but you get ready to play football, you have to play football, right? And that's something that's going on for decades. But you do a little less hitting now to preserve your body, and I get that. But I think you do get work, good work, in joint practices. Again, we're seeing the headlines and the highlights of the fight. For the most part, the practices go off without a hitch. But does the fighting then hurt the rest of the reps? That's something only each team and each coach can decide. But for me, I like joint practices better than preseason games.
Mike Golick Sr. this morning with a bit of a controversial take here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash. I hear a lot of people talk about how in preseason games, how players get into preseason games, and I'm starting to hear more and more current and former players say that they like to join practices. And I'm not trying to paint a broad brush. I'm trying to kind of frame something for a specific reason. It seems like the majority of people who are against the joint practices versus the games seem to be people who never played in the NFL. A lot of people who are looking down on the fights in these practices seem to be people who never played football the majority of the time. And I'm starting to see a bigger picture here, and that is it that people miss the preseason games, or is it that the majority of people just don't like the idea that they can visually get an eye on their favorite team before the season starts? I think that's the real point that Golick Sr. was kind of maybe getting to there, which is the perception of joint practices versus the reality of these joint practices. The majority of coaches in the league like these joint practices. Adam Caplan was on with us the other day talking about how Nick Sirianni and Mike Vrabel like these joint practices. I know Brian Schottenheimer, even though the fight between them and the Saints yesterday, said that he likes the joint practices. I remember Doug Peterson raved about joint practices when he was the head coach. So I think the real issue is that people miss the days when you got kind of the preview of your favorite team. It's like for us movie nerds, right? When a new trailer comes out for a movie we're looking forward to, we get excited, we get juiced, we get amped up. We get the feeling of, I can't miss out on this movie. And NFL preseason used to be the same thing. You'd see your favorite team or your favorite player on the field, and it would give you that little extra oomph getting ready for the season. And now you don't have that. And it's not about what's best for the players and the teams. It's about what's best for you, the fan. Speaking of the fan, Vic Fangio, your favorite coach, next.
97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort studio, here's Mike Gill.
3 o'clock hour of the Sports Pass. Josh Hennig for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. As always, 3 o'clock hour of the Bash being brought to you by Brawley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Brawley's is your trusted source for heating and plumbing service, as well as air conditioner installation for generations. Call them at 609 Read I Know, Read I Know 7, or visit them online at broadleaf.net. Look on this battle, we got Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City. He will join us coming up in about 30 minutes from now. Also, you'll hear from everyone's favorite coordinator, the true serum in living color himself, Vic Fangio. We'll hear his conversation with the media at today's joint practices. Also, text coming in on the White Horse RV text board at 609-403-0973. We'll get a deeper dive into day one of the joint practices with Adam Caplan live in Foxborough, Massachusetts for Football at 4 in an hour from now. But I did want to get in one text. John from Avalon decided to dip his feet into both the Eagles and Phillies conversation on the White Horse RV text board at 609-403-0973. John from Avalon says, nice win by the Phillies last night. Zach Wheeler giving up a home run and they win. Nobody cares. As when Jalen Hurts, those interceptions and they win. Nobody cares on the flip side if you're giving up a home run. It only matters if you cost yourself a game. Nice to see the Eagles have a good scrimmage against the Patriots today. Shout out to my boys, Craig and Tom, who are big listeners to the station, says John in Avalon. Well, first of all, John, thanks for the text. Second of all, thanks to Craig and Tom and everybody listening on 97.3 ESPN. If all of you listening on 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. See how we're also streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. However you're consuming the show, thank you for doing so. To me, though, John Avalon, I think there's a big difference between a quarterback throwing an interception versus a pitcher giving up a home run. It's a lot easier to say a home run is of no consequence if you win a game like 6-2. Or like Aaron Nola at the Field of Dreams game. He gave up a home run, but the Phillies won 7-1. Like the score is a much better reflection of the actual game in baseball than it is in football. You can win a game in the NFL and it be, I'm just looking at a random number, 28-14, but your quarterback throw 3 interceptions, but no touchdowns, right? So I have trouble saying that if Jalen Hurts threw an interception, nobody cares as long as they win, because frankly, John Avalon, that's one of the complaints about Jalen Hurts. One of the complaints about him is you heard Jacob Robinson talk about it in the last hour, how there is a perception of Jalen that he can't make every throw, that he can't make every pass, even though there is plenty of evidence to the contrary of that. So what happens is when Jalen does have a game like the Chargers game last year, he throws all those interceptions, and we can say if A.J. Brown doesn't drop that touchdown pass, maybe they win the game. People are still going to rip Jalen for those interceptions. In my mind, I always go back to, because even though Jalen is a risk-averse quarterback, he is not a quarterback who throws a lot of interceptions on the regular. My mind always goes back to the 2022 season. The Eagles lost in Chicago. I think it was later in the year. I don't remember exactly what week it was, but I know the game was in Chicago. The Eagles won 25-20 in that game. But Jalen had 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. And I will never forget the discord the next day after that game was, well, the Eagles were fortunate to win that game because Jalen threw 2 interceptions. So I think that giving up home runs and throwing interceptions are very different, because we as football fans, we aggressively nitpick every single thing our team does on an NFL Sunday. We're not as aggressively nitpicking every single at bat unless you go 0 for 4, right? We're not aggressively nitpicking every single inning a pitcher pitches because, again, Aaron Nola gave up a home run, but he still gave you 6 innings in the Field of Dreams game. You won 7-1. So I agree with you on the idea that nobody cares, quote unquote, giving up the home run. But I think the interception, and if I remember correctly, Jalen had like 2-3 rushing touchdowns in the game, but he didn't throw any touchdowns. But because he had the 2 interceptions, people were like, can you win a championship with a quarterback who doesn't throw touchdowns and throws interceptions like that? So again, I think that there is a huge difference, John Avalon, between the quarterback throwing an interception and the pitcher hitting a home run. Now, like you said, good day of scrimmages for the Eagles. For those who didn't hear, Jalen Hurts, some good moments, getting the ball to Elijah Moore, dump off passes when facing pressure to Saquon Barkley and Will Shipley. I was going to say the white running back, but I forgot his name for a minute. Someone, I'm sure, will probably text the White Horse RV text board ripping me for that comment at 609-403-0973. But on defense, there were some good moments as well. A.J. Brown couldn't get any action against Quinyon Mitchell. Had a better day against Reek Woolen. Vic Fangio, the Eagles defensive coordinator, the ultimate truth serum of the Philadelphia Eagles, spoke to the media before today's joint practice. Here is what the defensive coordinator had to say. We are your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, bringing you Nick Sirianni press conferences as well as Vic Fangio every single week right here on the Sports Bash. Here is the Phillies fan and Eagles defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, on the Sports Bash.
Who's first? Come on, Jeff. What do you got?
I got you. So I don't know if Cooper would be your first outside cornerback and one of the top 2 guys when you get hurt. But will you ever work him in there, or do you just feel comfortable with him there based on what he's done in the past?
Yeah, he's worked in there in drills. I've told the DB coaches to make sure he's stayed up to snuff there, both mentally and technique-wise.
How big a test is this for Quinyon and practice?
I don't know. Are we sure AJ's practicing today?
Can you tell us?
It's all every snap you take in the NFL is a test.
How important are these joint practices just in terms of evaluation especially for those guys who might not see any reps or limited reps during those games?
Yeah, I love doing these things. I think these things are great. I wish we would do another one. It's great to go against a new team, new schemes, new players. You'll learn things. You're going to get unscouted looks and plays and see how people react. These things are tremendous, and can't get enough of it.
What made you want to play about your guys from these that?
It's just part of the process. Possibly.
In Jihad's case, what made you want to play him in that first game, and how's he coming in?
He, when the Kobe got back last year, his snaps got cut down away a lot, and just feel he needs more reps. And it proved out in the game. He had a play or two that he didn't play the right way, that he should be playing the right way. So we still got work to do.
What is the difference between him and Makuba on that front, since he also missed time?
Yeah. Makuba was more injury related, his misses last year. And, each case is different.
How about with Marcus? Why did he play in that game?
Yeah, because I wanted to see Carter get a lot of snaps at safety. Epps has played his whole career at safety. He's getting a lot of reps in practice. Mike, this is new territory for Mike. And we need to get him a bunch of reps there to really get him prepared and totally evaluated.
How did he grade out?
He did fine. Mike's had a good camp. I think it was their first touchdown pass in the game. He should have played better. But to me, it's more just his newness on the job, particularly when he's in a deep zone, is all new to him. And we need to get him as many reps doing that as we can.
Where does that competition stand still?
It's a competition. It is.
Nick, what's impressive about Trot, his training camp and everything like that?
Yeah, he, he's reaping the benefits of being in the system for 3 years. He's matured. He's picked. He always knew what to do, but his processing is a whole lot faster and quicker. I mean, the most important quality you can have as an inside backer is instincts, play recognition, and his is really showing more in this camp than it had before.
Are you happy with the edge group in light of the fact that Bernard hasn't been practice for a little while?
Yeah, I don't know when Bernard will be back. That injury he got in our weight room, is going to take some time to heal. Yeah, I'm very happy with Nolan and Jalix. AK is coming along. The other guys are coming along. But we need to get, we need our third and fourth until Bernard gets back to really solidify their positions.
How about Epinesa in particular? You spoke about him before.
Yeah, he's been doing good, and he played good in the preseason game. He had a great learning experience on that pass he got beat on. I'm really happy that happened, because it was a preseason game. But not only for him, but all the outside backers / edge players. It's a great learning experience on how to play that play. And he's doing good. He's picking up, we dropped those guys a little bit, not a lot, and he's really done well with it, and I think he'll continue to improve.
What did Ty Robinson show you?
Yeah, he came to life, He's been on life support since he's been here, but he came to life. And hopefully that will continue.
Vic, from Boston, just generally speaking, what are some of the challenges in covering A.J. Brown? What makes him so effective out there?
Well, he's a big receiver. He's strong. Got strong hands. 50-50 balls are his friend most of the time. Just a big, strong, athletic, instinctive, good receiver.
I know you asked us to calm down on Bernard and Weaver storylines, but Weaver in particular, seeing him out there, did anything jump out?
So you're not calming down?
I'm not calming down on it, yeah.
Those are our two exchange teams. They're doing fine, but they got a long way to go.
You mentioned Trot 3 years. It's kind of like Keely 3 years. We saw the interception, and we also saw some other.
Yeah. I think Keely is, he's been everybody's pinata doll for a while. I kind of sense he could be coming. We'll see. See how he does these next. I think, somebody asked the question, these 2 days. I think these 2 days for him are big. Okay?
What's been your impressions of some of the safety depth with guys like Maxim Spoy and Bushkin on the back?
Yeah, they came alive in the game, did some good things. I think they're two good young prospects. We'll see how it all shakes out when you have to get to 53.
You talked about Chance.
Yeah.
You talked about Chance before, but with Deontay and Smile, it seems like you have real depth at that position.
Say that again?
With Deontay and Smile, it seems like you have some pretty interesting depth there.
Yeah, our ILB position is, probably our deepest position on defense. We got Trotter and Smile that are two good quality players. Campbell, who's been hurt for a while, but I think he'll be back out there today. And Deontay, so I feel good about those guys.
With Keyshawn and them missing so much time, what do they have to do to
Catch up.
And how do they kind of do that?
It's hard to make up for lost time, especially with the way we practice anymore in the league. Reps are at a premium. It'll be hard.
What about Josh's offense? That's for you a good
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they'll show us, but they've always been, last year they played a fullback a lot, so they're one of those teams that still plays a fullback. We haven't seen any of that, so that would be good to see. They're a little bit more spread. Our offense is more condensed, so that would be good. Everything's valuable. It's going to be great to go against new stuff.
Elsewhere in the league, there have been.
What's that?
short games. I haven't played in the preseason game. What are you kind of looking for to see from those guys? Patriots?
Get him a lot of reps. Okay. You know what's happened with these joint practices? A lot of teams take the philosophy of get your ones a lot of reps in practice, then they don't play in the game. And hopefully we can get both of those guys enough reps to where over a 2-day period, it kind of feels like a game for them.
Elsewhere in the league, there have been fights in some of these sessions. What's your approach or philosophy with that going into it?
Yeah, we don't want them. We don't tolerate it. The way I explain it to the players, every time we do one of these, you have 90 teammates in camp. Now you got 180 teammates. We're just working against each other. Okay? They're in a different jersey, a different helmet. We're not here to fight. We're here to get better as an individual and a team, and hopefully we'll all treat it that way.
That was Eagles defense coordinator Vic Fangio live from Foxborough before today's joint practice. A couple of big takeaways I had from what Vic had to say. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And by the way, I got a little breaking news for you guys. I just got a phone call from the one and only Sal Palantonio. He's coming up in 13 minutes. Yeah. Sal Palantonio just called me and said, can you squeeze me in on the Sports Bash Wednesday, Josh? I said, of course we can. For you, Sal Pal, of course we can. And he said, I'll call you back at 3:30. So Sal Palantonio coming up in about 13 minutes on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. But back to what Fangio had to say. A couple of big takeaways that I personally had from what Vic said. Number one, I couldn't get around when he said that Shahad Campbell losing regular snaps last year put him a little bit behind. And that was part of the reason why they're trying to get him more reps in training camp, in joint practices, in preseason games. I think that's a huge part of this conversation because Philadelphia is really depending on Shahad Campbell to step up without Nakobe Dean. And you heard Vic Fangio say it. Look, when Nakobe came back, we had to get him back on the field. But Shahad Campbell lost reps. I think that's a huge part of this conversation is that for the Eagles, they need Shahad Campbell to be that guy next to Zach Bond. They drafted him in the first round for a reason. And for Fangio to come out overtly and say, look, we're trying to get this guy reps so he is not behind, so he's up to speed when we start the season, it's a huge part of all of this. That's number one. Number two, you heard him talk about how he wishes there were more joint practices, about how there will have more opportunities to get guys reps they might not be able to get in training camp or in the preseason. I think that's a huge part of this conversation as well, is the fact that he's saying, look, we need all of these joint practices we can get because we can get practice against other teams. You heard him talk about also he didn't play it up like the preseason game was as much of a negative or as much of an indictment of the team as maybe some other people have. And he talked about how, it's about getting guys opportunities that they might not get otherwise. And he pretty much come out and said that, what we saw, like the positives we saw from your Ty Robinsons, your Byron Youngs, that, it's opportunities for them to get action that maybe they're not getting otherwise. The other big takeaway I had about the safety position specifically, he talked about how they're trying to get Michael Carter more actions at safety. And he said, look, Epps has played his entire career at safety. So they basically know what you're getting from him. They don't know what they're getting from Carter at safety. So it was important for them to get a ton of reps at safety. And he said that, Carter's had a good camp. He was fine in the preseason game. And he says he could play better, but he's new to that position in Fangio's scheme. So he said, look, it's a competition for who's going to get the majority of the reps at safety. But he kind of gave you an idea that between Carter, Epps, and Makuba, some combination of those guys are going to get reps at safety, especially when there's nickel and dime formations, because Philadelphia still likes the idea of DeJean playing the nickel corner. You also heard him compliment guys like Jeremiah Trotter, guys like AJ Epinesa, Ty Robinson. So Fangio is kind of giving you an idea that, hey, the secondary guys, they're showing me a little something. And maybe in the season, we might be a little bit less apprehensive to go to Trotter at linebacker or Epinesa on the D line or Ty Robinson at D tackle if and when they need them. Now, the final big takeaway we had from it is the Jonathan Grenard issue. I talked about this on my show this weekend on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. The Jonathan Grenard injury. He said, again, it's going to take time to heal. He didn't sound like Grenard is coming back anytime soon. And maybe that what the Eagles have called a pectoral strain might have been a little more serious than we thought. And for a guy coming back from a shoulder injury, it's very possible Grenard maybe trained a little too hard, a little too fast, a little too aggressively when it came to that shoulder. And now the Eagles are stuck in a predicament where they better hope that Ebiketie and Nolan Smith and Jelix Hunt, that they're ready to go. Now, Fangio said he's very happy with those three guys. But no, listen, they traded for Grenard and they gave him a ton of money. And for Fangio to come out and say, yeah, we don't know if when he's coming back. It sounds like Philadelphia might be forced to enter the season with Nolan Smith, Jelix Hunt, and Arnold Ebiketie as your big three when it comes to the edge rush group, and then just hope for the best from anybody else at this point. Because if Grenard isn't ready to go, that makes the start of the season a little more tenuous for Phillies defense. But you would hope that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis can offset some of those issues. All right, Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget to catch every Eagles and Phillies game down with our friends over at the Sliders Bar at Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant at the foot of the Wildwood Bridge. That's Rio Grande Boulevard, which is also Wildwood Boulevard, depending on which side of the bridge you're on. But either way, you take exit 4 up the Garden State Parkway, you drive down the boulevard, right at the foot of the bridge, boom, on the right side is extraordinary seafood, tremendous value, and sunsets on the house. Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant and the Boathouse Restaurant at the foot of the bridge in Wildwood, the best of the Jersey Shore. That's where we are, of course. We will be back there on September 2nd with the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN FM. The one and only Sal Paolantonio calling in from Foxborough, Massachusetts, with a special update for us next here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And we are streaming live as always on YouTube and X at 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like a social media manager.
Did you just post our Q4 earnings to your personal social media?
Oh yeah, used a trending audio and everything.
That's confidential financial data.
Relax. It only went a little viral.
The SEC just commented with the eyeball watching emoji.
This is the job for sponsored jobs.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
Josh Hennig back here for Mike Gill, the Hump Day Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash, 973 ESPN. Of course, you can hear Mel Reese and Mike Quick call all the action this Saturday, Eagles-Patriots game 2. But today was joint practice day 1, and we have a surprise guest. The one and only Sal Palantonio reporting live from Foxborough, Massachusetts after day 1 of Eagles Patriots joint practice. Sal, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Great to join you on
the Sports Bash on this beautiful day here in Foxborough. Yes, day one is in the books, and it was a very eventful day on both sides of the field concerning A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, I got to tell you.
Well, you started there, so let's go to where all the social media people are freaking out about. It seems like Quinyon Mitchell versus A.J. Brown, for the most part, round one goes to the Birds, right?
Right. The first, not by accident, the Patriots dialed up on the first play from scrimmage in these joint practices here in Foxborough was a 9 route, a go route by A.J. Brown down the left sideline right in front of all the fans. And they had the largest number of fans here in Foxborough in training camp history. Over 12,000 people came out to see A.J. Brown versus the Birds. Right past all of those fans, Quinyon Mitchell, A.J. Brown, stride for stride, step for step, toenail to toenail. Drake May unloads a deep ball, a high-arcing deep ball, just short of the end zone. It comes down, and Quinyon Mitchell breaks it up.
For you, Sal, overall, how did A.J. Brown look against his former team?
Well, he was the best wide receiver on the field for both teams, and he should be. He's a two-time $100 million wide receiver who helped the Eagles win a Super Bowl, and he's in great shape. He's in the best shape that I've ever seen him. They've had 19 training camp practices here, and he hasn't missed a snap. He had 6 catches on 7 targets. That first throw down the sideline, broken up by Quinyon Mitchell, was the only one that A.J. Brown did not catch. So he had a pretty successful day running routes against the Eagles defense overall.
Really quick, Sal, I find that interesting. You mentioned how he looks like he's in the best shape that you've seen him in. It sounds like we're describing a guy who was extremely motivated to play for his new team.
I think you're right about that. I think he is extremely motivated. He was telling me today, I did a one-on-one interview with him that'll be on NFL Live here in about a half an hour, Josh. And he was telling me that he and Drake May, after practice, spent a lot of time together in one-on-one film sessions, just the two of them, going over the tape of practice and making sure that they're on the same page. You know, the Patriots offense, going back to the Brady days under Josh McDaniels, and Josh is still the offensive coordinator here, they run a lot of option routes, which means the quarterback needs to know where the receiver is going at all times. And they work on that quite a bit.
Sal, we played the audio from defensive coordinator Vic Fangio a little bit earlier in the show, and he talked about how important it is to get reps for these guys in these joint practices. So what do you think was the overall big takeaway for Fangio and his defense today?
You know, I think the defense is going to be good. I think the defense is going to be good because you have 5 Pro Bowlers on this defense, and you have 2 All-Pros. And that's not going to change, you know, knock on wood. They got Carter, they got Davis, they got Mitchell, they got Cooper DeJean, and they got Zach Bond. And you put the 5 of those guys together, and you're going to have a pretty good defense. So I don't really see any major weakness whatsoever. I think they have to figure out the safety position, but you can figure that out pretty easily. It's pretty easy to play safety in a Vic Fangio defense. I think this defense is going to be better than it was last year. They gave up 18 points a game last year. That was 5th best in the league. I bet you they're in the top 3 this year.
Sal Paolantonio joining us live from Foxborough, Massachusetts after day 1 of joint practice between the Birds and the Patriots. Sal, speaking of the safety position, Fangio, he did a little name dropping today. You know, he mentioned Andrew McCuba. He mentioned Michael Carter. He said, we don't really know who Michael Epps is. We don't need to see a ton of him. Who do you think is going to be the week 1 tandem at safety?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. We still got a lot of practices, still a month to go. And, you know, Howie Roseman still likes to wheel and deal right up until week 1. So it's difficult to tell right now. I think the one thing about Makuba is it's hard for him to stay on the field because he has a small body for an NFL safety. So I'd be surprised if Makuba is the one that's ultimately chosen that last 17 games. To me, you know, it would have been easy to re-sign Reed Blankenship. I think it was a mistake not to re-sign him. And I think it severely weakens that position, but they'll figure that out. If safety is their toughest spot to fill, then the Eagles won't have many problems. I think the biggest thing is that Fangio said they didn't know when they were going to get Jonathan Grenard back, who they traded for from the Minnesota Vikings, and he was supposed to figure in as a important part of their edge rush. And he has been MIA at all. He hasn't been around at all. And when Fangio said he wasn't sure whether he was going to be back or when he was going to be back, that's big news to me.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a big part of the conversation too. They didn't just trade for Jonathan Gennard, Sal. They gave him a big contract this offseason. There is an investment in that guy. So if he is still not on the field, and of course they're calling it a pectoral strain, who really knows what exactly happened, because it happened during the offseason. Apparently he was weightlifting a little bit too heavy. But still, Sal, that's a guy that you were depending on. And we saw last year, Philadelphia, they bring in Zadarius Smith after the Cowboys game week 1. They brought Brandon Graham out of retirement. They traded for Jalen Phillips. So this is a position that you thought Grenard was going to come in here and help you with, and he ain't on the field, as you said, yet.
Yeah, and this is a position they should have addressed in the first round rather than drafting Mekhi Lemon, who can't get on the field. To me, first round was for edge rusher or offensive lineman, and they went with two guys back-to-back, Mekhi Lemon and Eli Stowers, who are giving them no contribution whatsoever. That's on the negative side, but I got to tell you, on the positive side, they are very impressed with Markel Bell. Very impressed with him. He has now leapfrogged over Fred Johnson as the backup swing tackle on the right side. He looks dominant. Nobody could get past him today.
Hey, you know who else is impressed with him? I heard Brian Balding. He was on earlier today on the Golix here on 97.3 ESPN. Baldy was waxing poetic about Markel Bell. And you know Baldy, he speaks what he says. He hears. He ain't sugarcoating stuff.
No, I think Markel Bell has been really an eye-opener. The size, the strength, the agility. He was meant to pass protect. He's a wall. He's a moving phone booth. He's tough.
Sal, we haven't heard from you since Lane Johnson made that announcement. This is potentially his last year. I got to know from you, you're a guy who's covered Lane his entire career. What is your take on this potentially being Lane's final year?
Well, I think he's got an idea of what he wants to do in his life. Host football. He missed 10 games last year with a foot injury. You got to be able to, count on your tackles in the NFL. And, if Markel Bell can be the guy who takes Lane Johnson's spot, that would be great for the Eagles, for sure, 100%. Lane Johnson, he's going to be a serious contention for a Hall of Fame candidacy.
Sal Paolantonio joining us live from Foxborough, Massachusetts. Eagles, Patriots, joint practice 1. Sal, we've been holding it off. Let's get to the offense. And I thought one of the biggest takeaways that I saw from the reporting from Foxborough, Jalen Hurts throwing to Saquon Barkley, throwing to Will Shipley. It seems like that is finally potentially a part of this new offense, something that we've been asked for in previous years.
Yeah, well, that's not going to get you to the Super Bowl, Josh. That's all well and good, and I know a lot of people who are covering the team are smitten with the fact that they're finally throwing to the running backs. Points in the NFL come out of the passing game from the quarterback to the wide receivers. That's where the points are. He's throwing to the running backs now because it's easy. And he's not got Devontae Smith on the field for very much. He hasn't gotten Mekhi Lemon on the field. 30% of his passing yards is playing in New England. A.J. Brown's gone. He's learning a new offense. Thrown into the backs, that's easy. Pretty much any quarterback can throw it to the backs. No, what has to happen is an evolution of this offense to where he feels comfortable throwing to some of these wide receivers who are going to take A.J. Brown's spot. I can't stress enough to people who are watching this that when you saw A.J. Brown today on the practice field, you realized that the Eagles are going to miss this dude big time, and they don't have a replacement for him. You need a big, strong, tough, either fast, elusive, great wide receiver if you're going to go anywhere in the NFL. Look at Seattle. They got JSN. There's a reason why Seattle won the Super Bowl. There's a reason why Denver went out and loaded up at the wide receiver position. There's a reason why the New England Patriots, after they lost Stephon Diggs, went out and got A.J. Brown. You got to have a big, strong wide receiver, somebody who can carry the team in times of trouble, make the electrifying plays. That's what the NFL is all about. You want to dink and dunk to Shipley and Barkley and Bigsby and all them guys? Okay, yeah, that's good. But, that's going to extend the length of drives and open you up to all kinds of other mistakes, penalties, and or turnovers. You got to get the explosive plays. And that's one of the things that Nick Sirianni has preached over and over and over again. I've heard him talk to me about it, pregame, postgame. What are the explosives? Where are the explosive plays coming? You can hear it. You can hear him say it. He calls them explosives. Where are they coming from? We don't want to turn the ball over, and we need explosive plays. Well, you're not going to get explosive plays unless you get Saquon Barkley in a swing route, and then he takes it 40, 50, 60, 70 yards.
So I think a lot of people listening would ask you, Sal, is there a guy on this team who is a potential for explosive plays for the receiver? Or do you think Howie might have to make a trade before the start of the season?
Well, they got Devontae Smith, and he's certainly capable of them. And, Jalen Hurts threw 3 interceptions today. 3. He threw 3 interceptions. That's not been talked about.
Do you think it's not been talked about because how people reacted to the viral video that came out of him being intercepted last week, that maybe some people are trying to downplay it?
I don't know. I really don't. But the Eagles' offense is slow going into shape. And, I'm going to give Nick Sirianni the benefit of the doubt because he's 5-0 in openers. He usually figures out how to get the team into shape in time for the opener. But they need work for sure. All right, Josh, I got to hit NFL Live. It was great talking to you. Thank you to Johnny G and the Griner team at Berger Realty, Ocean City, New Jersey, for supporting us on this show. And I will talk to Mike Gill when he comes back with a World Series trophy.
He is on his way. Sal, enjoy Foxborough.
All right, Mike. Thanks a lot, Josh. Bye.
Yes, Mike Gill is right now. Actually, they're waiting on a rain delay right now to play their game today. But Mike Gill will be back on Monday here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. So great points from Sal Powell. I like Rico chiming in the Whitehorse RV text board saying Sal better than ever, has no agenda, tells it like it is. Credit to all of you guys, Mike Gill and everyone, for Sal Powell calling in. Well, that was Sal also. Sal deserves credit, Rico, Sal called me. He said, Josh, I got to get on the radio. I said, Sal, what time do you want? Couple of things that I took away from Sal Powell there. He made it sound like that maybe all the conversations we've been having about safety is not as a big deal as people are making it out to be. And I find that a very interesting take because Vic Fangio is a guy who has made it very clear that he's not putting people on the field unless he's comfortable in their knowledge of his defense. And Sal is saying, look, safety is a position in Fangio's defense that people can learn. So if we do go into the season, and just using an example, it's Michael Carter and Mike Epps, Sal Powell doesn't sound like a guy who's too worried about that. He doesn't sound like he's sweating that. What it does like Sal Powell is worried about is how are the Eagles replacing A.J. Brown's productivity? He's not looking at it as this is just a new offense, different way of doing things. Sal Powell's saying there's nobody on this team who is an obvious replacement for the production that is lost from A.J. Brown. And you've heard him say it today. You've heard him say it in past weeks with Mike Gill in the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. Sal has been very clear about this, that the drafting of Mekhi Lemon was something he did not agree with. And not just because Mekhi Lemon is injured right now, but Sal said it all the way back in April and May. Sal was very clear. He said it again today. Philadelphia should have used their first-round pick to go get help on the defensive end in the pass rusher spot. That drafting Lemon And listen, I don't think that Lemon was a bad pick necessarily. I don't think Sal is saying Kyle Lemon's a bad player. But I think what Sal is trying to say is that's a guy that you could have used resources for something else. And in an offseason where you drafted, this is me talking here, where you drafted Mekhi Lemon in the first round and you invested a lot of financial resources in the Jonathan Grenard, it really has a big, big red flag that Philadelphia, as you heard Sal Powell say, Howie Roseman might be pulling another one of his famous trades before the start of the season, because right now, if there's no Grenard and there's no obvious guy stepping up as the second and third receivers to help with the explosives on this offense, has to make you wonder. Great stuff from Sal Palantonio. Surprise appearance by Sal Pal here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We're going to hear from Mike McGarry today, but Mike McGarry was kind enough to agree that he'll jump on tomorrow's show. So we'll hear from McGarry more about the Phillies tomorrow. Coming up next, though, it is the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. And I got to tell you guys, Evan Cohen has an idea, and I'm intrigued. I don't know if I agree with it, but I'm intrigued. We'll play it for you coming up next here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. And we are streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN.
So here's the idea for the PGA Tour. What I would like tournament twice a year for the next few years. That basically you could take the top golfers in the world, LIV Tour, PGA Tour, one-on-one, and you're playing for re-entrance into and onto the PGA Tour. No fine. You're not getting paid for the tournament. So you're showing up, your cost, wherever it is.
That was Evan Cohen this morning on Sportsmanlike, heard 6 a.m. at 10 a.m. Eastern on 97.3 ESPN. I got to tell you guys, I don't hate the idea. As the resident golf nerd here at 97.3 ESPN, I don't hate the idea. I would just make one modification to it, if I may. I think it should be a one-on-one. You know, John Rahm versus Bryson DeChambeau, kind of like they do with the skins play or the match play. That's what I want to see. I feel like there's not enough people earning spots in the world today. So what I would do is I would turn it into an opportunity to have these guys just go head to head. Don't have them go against PGA golfers. No. Have them go against each other. Turn it into an elimination tournament. See, I like what Evan did, but I want to modify it. I want the stakes even more intense. And let's put it on television. Let's put all these guys in a little elimination bracket. John Rahm, he's got 3 chances to beat Bryson DeChambeau. If you can't beat him in 3 shots, Bryson moves on to the next round. And if Bryson can't get past the next guy in the next round, that guy goes to the PGA Tour. I love the idea of forcing people to get back to the PGA Tour. They do in the Corn Ferry Tour. Those guys and the women do in the LPGA too, in the Epson Tour. They got to earn their way onto the Pro League. They're not just handing those opportunities. All right, more football talk next. Adam Caplan from Foxborough next.
Home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. 97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Caplan, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I give my heart and soul to this franchise, as so many of us do.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, and of course, wherever you get your podcasts, like and subscribe to Inside the Birds. We'll hear from Adam Caplan momentarily here on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget Football at 4. As always, brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort and the Gallery Bar Booking Games. Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort. Gallery Bar Booking Games is your go-to game day destination with huge screens, great drinks, and all the sportsbook action you want. It's the perfect place to catch every play and celebrate every win at Ocean Casino Resort. And it's time to go back up to Foxborough. Adam Caplan for today's Football at 4 joint practice day number 1. Adam, how's it going up there? It might help if I actually hit the button. That's totally my fault, Adam. That was a faux pas by me. Let's try that again. How's it going?
Sure. Technology, yeah. No, but it's beautiful. To answer your question, we got lucky with the weather. It's going to be a little bit overcast tomorrow, but not just the rain. But it was beautiful, high 70s, low 80s. They let the fans in here at Foxborough. They've got plenty of room. In fact, I hadn't been here in 3 years. They added a new building for the media and for multimedia, so it's really cool. Sponsored by New Balance. So it's cool to see that. But no, it was a very lively practice. And I'm not one of these people, unless it's painfully obvious. And I'll explain why I don't do this. So, when like fans would say, well, who won practice? Early in my career, Josh, I didn't know any better. And I was almost wrong every time I said, oh, well, the Eagles won this, in these joint practices, or whatever team I was with. I remember my first one was with the Raiders and Niners in 2005. Completely got it wrong. The opposite was true. So I rarely will say a team dominated practice. The only time I saw it happen, I believe it was 4 years ago in Brea, Ohio. The Browns were hosting the Eagles, and the Eagles kicked the ass of the Browns. In fact, one former NFL head coach was doing a training camp tour. When we were done, we compared notes, and the guy said, this is dominant. They look like a Super Bowl team, the Eagles. And, of course, they made it that year against the Chiefs. But so, again, to summarize, you see stuff out there. And Andrew Juchecko and I just dropped a show, which you can get on any podcasting platform. It'll be actually being uploaded now. So you could hear it later today, the next hour or so. We give folks 45 to 50 minutes about what we saw, what we heard, and what we know. And there was a lot of mixed stuff, Josh, I would say, with this practice with the Eagles, kind of up and down.
And when you talk about the up and down, I think the big highlight for a lot of people they're very curious about was how does the new Eagles offense look in this action? So kind of give us a review of what did Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense look like today?
I thought the run game, we'll get started with that, was really good. Outside zone stuff, very explosive with Barkley and Will Shipley. And Tank Bigsby, because he's come back from a toe injury, didn't work a lot. But the quarterback timing was off overall, just all three of them. Gold did some good things. Hurts had a beautiful out route, and he's become really good at this sideline throw. 15 to 20 yards downfield, it's a timing throw. He's really good with that, but he had some passes that were behind the pass targets. Some passes that got batted down. Tanner McKee does not look like the same guy, Josh, in years 2 and 3, where in terms of training camp, where he was just terrific and threw with great timing and rhythm and has that great arm, but he's not seeing it well. He's not throwing with good enough timing. It's concerning. Andy Dalton, by the way, is definitely he didn't win it yet, but he's clearly got the advantage on McKee for the number 2 job. If you would have told me this before training camp started, really OTA started when it was even, I wouldn't have believed it, but I could only go by what I know and what I'm told and what I see. So McKee's got time. Tomorrow's practice and 2 weeks of practice in the 2 preseason games, but he better get started right now.
Adam, for you, talking about the McKee thing, let's emphasize again that this is a little concerning because, they kept him for a lot of reasons. They never moved on from him, and they brought in Andy Dalton. And, I'm not hoping anything bad happened to Jalen Hurts, but God forbid something does and they got to go with a backup quarterback, the Eagles better be sure that whoever is coming in is capable of handling the job.
Yeah, look, Andy Dalton's 38 years old. He's a little bit older than I thought. He's a journeyman quarterback. He's played in the West Coast system before. That's why he's here, other than what we reported at the time that 3 years ago, it was either going to be the Panthers or the Eagles for Andy Dalton. And at the last second, he was leaning towards the Eagles. He changed his mind for family considerations living down south. But the Panthers, as we reported, did not want him. They found they were trying to find someone to take his contract, and they split it. The Eagles would pay $1.5 million of Dalton's contract. The Panthers would pay the other guaranteed money, which is $2.5 million. And here we go. Dalton's done. It's been a little bit more consistent than Tanner McKee. Now, on your point about what, are the Eagles in good hands if Hurts got hurt and couldn't play a week or two? It's a good question. I'm not totally sold on Dalton at this point. You rely on the starting experience, obviously, but this should not even be a discussion, but it is because McKee has just not done it. I'm as surprised as most people. I mean, if you've listened to us on Inside the Birds, we've been singing the praises of McKee for almost 3 years. Came out of nowhere in that Baltimore preseason game where he wasn't doing well in training camp his first year. And ever since, for 2.5 years, he was great. Until that, Josh, I think it really started for him in that Washington game, week 18 last year. He didn't play well. And he's been on the downward slide since then, to be honest with you.
Adam Caplan joining us live from Foxborough, Massachusetts. Joint practices today, day one between the Eagles and the Patriots. Adam, a lot of people, speaking of Jalen Hurts, they have, kind of hyper-analyzed what he has done in practice, what he has done at the joint practices today, training camp.
Yeah.
So, give the audience your perspective of who and what Jalen Hurts is in this offense as of August 19th.
Yeah, it's really been what I thought. The time, you see spurts of the good timing, which we saw last season, and then there's other times he holds on to the ball too long. You got to understand, man. I'll give you an example. We talked about Ty Robinson in the show that Andrew and I just did, and I had a nugget on how he had to be deprogrammed of what he learned at Nebraska and how to learn what Fangio and Clint Hurt wanted. Well, Hurts basically has got to deprogram the Sirianni system, which is the only system he's known since 21. Yes, he was with the West Coast system in 2020, but he wasn't starting then. That was Wentz's last season as a starter, though Hurts did play late in that season. But this is a different system than the one that Peterson ran. Terminology is the same, but he really had to relearn this, and it's tough. It's as we said months ago, it's going to take months, not weeks. They're still in that, and Dalton knows the system where Hurts has got to learn it. So to sum it up on your question, people need to be patient. You'll hear me say on this show that we did, Andrew and I did today. I'm not backing off what I said. He's going to get it. He's a veteran quarterback. He's won a lot of games. He can throw his timing because he's done it before. He just has never done it consistently. He's going to have to do it consistently. But folks they got to be patient. I know in this town we want instant results, but you're going to have to be patient, folks. It's not going to happen overnight.
Now, it's not just this town. We live in a microwave society. Everyone wants their mac and cheese in a minute or less.
Every sport. Every sport. We turn. We want the next best thing. Hurts is the quarterback. That's it. I mean, he's just got to get it.
Adam, you mentioned Ty Robinson. Let's flip over to the defense. Fangio spoke to the media today.
Yeah.
And by the way, I like to call Fangio truth serum. He is like the ultimate. He's amazing. And I love one of the comments he made, Adam. He actually talked about Jahad Campbell. He talked about how last year Nakobe Dean taking reps away from Campbell put him behind the 8 ball a little bit. I thought that was a very interesting revelation there by Fangio.
All right, a couple things here. All right. Let's be honest, folks. He's not telling the complete truth. What I'm saying is, why do you think Jahad Campbell played in the preseason game? If he was having a great training camp, do we really think he'd be in there with the backups? No.
Nope.
I mean, he wouldn't be. If he's doing better, I get it. Vic's not going to say that. But how about the comment that he said about Ty Robinson? Well, he said he was on life support before the game, but he's got life, which means he played well. He's saying, by the way, I was there, so I was like, wait, did he just say? And we all, and the reporter next to me nodded, goes, I can't believe he said that. But he's telling the truth. He's letting you know Ty Robinson was not very good. Jeff and I, when we previewed training camp, and people thought we were crazy about Ty Robinson, that he wasn't locked to make the team. We said he needs to start performing. Didn't have a good year last year. Training camp has not been great for him, and then he just was a stud in this preseason game. Sometimes that's all you need. So we'll see. We'll see. Look, it's only one preseason game. We're not going to go overboard, but it was really good. And we're going to see the rest of training camp and practices and tomorrow, and then in these last two preseason games, what he looks like to see if he's going to make the team.
Adam, I also want to get your take on the comments about Michael Carter that Fangio. He talked about Carter and getting more reps at safety, how he basically, in the paraphrase Fangio, he said that Epps, they know who he is. He's played safety his whole life in the NFL, whereas Carter, they said that he needs to get those reps so they have a better idea what he can and can't do.
Yeah, and look, he's been playing backup nickel. He's been backing up Epps at safety. The good thing about Carter is he's got better range. He can play post safety. Epps is better in the box. Epps is still clearly the starter. We're not ready to concede. Right now, Epps is the heavy favorite. Like, that has not changed. But again, this is what joint practices are for. Tomorrow, we'll see in the preseason games what happens, and then they'll have to make a decision. But Epps is clearly the starter. But the great thing about Carter is he's a safety in college at Duke. He did so well as a nickel. He got paid as one of the highest paid nickels in the NFL. And then, as we reported at the time, people thought we were crazy because he hadn't really done it. He had not played safety at this level. The Eagles planned on, at the time of the trade last year with the Jets, they're going to give him reps at safety in practice, and they did. He was actually their dime safety. So you're right to bring it up. He's got to make up for lost time. It's really going to be hard for him to take the job from Epps.
Couple more for Adam Caplan, live from Foxborough for today's Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Like, subscribe, and download wherever you get your podcasts. Adam, speaking of the defense, a lot of people want to know A.J. Brown versus the Eagles defense.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
All right, so A.J. Brown, and I don't know if they saw something Reek Woolen would have problems with, but first 20 minutes of 7-on-7 or 11-on-11, they had so many deep over routes. They burned the Eagles. They got Mitchell and one, but they went after Reek Woolen a little bit. So now I don't know if that was planned. There's no way I would know that. I'm just telling you, they had a lot of success. Woolen made a couple nice breakups, but they got him a bit. Look, it's hard for 6'4" corners to stop and start. It just is. And the type of routes that they were running, it caused he would have to decelerate, and it's hard for him to do that. It's just hard for tall corners to do that. So, yeah, they look. I told folks, be careful what OTAs are. They're flag football. They don't mean anything. There's zero indication of how the player will perform in training camp, and that's why I said it. I told people last year with Keely Ringo, you got to stop with it. It means absolutely nothing. He's not a starting corner. He never has been. Eagles rolled snake eyes on that one, thinking he could be a starting corner. Remember, he got beat out by a guy who had been out of the league for a year. So be careful of OTAs. Just be careful. It's non-contact. It's T-shirts and shorts. There's no physical play. This is when it matters. And now Woolen, by the way, because the Eagles were down 4 corners today, Ringo got a lot of work with the twos, but you won't see him play. If everybody's healthy, he won't be playing corner in the fall. He'll be a special teams player.
Yeah, exactly. Ringo is relegated to special teams unless it's a glass case of emergency. Adam, really quick before I let you go, I wanted to get your perspective on the other thing that Fangio said today. They don't know when Grenard is coming back from his injury. Yeah. I think that's a big deal because they invested not just trade assets, but a lot of money financially in Grenard this offseason.
Yeah, and Howie did say, Eagles general manager Howie Roseman said he kind of downplayed. He said absolutely be ready for training for week 1. He said when Howie's asked, and he goes, oh yeah, he'll be ready. Well, Vic's look. Remember, it's a pectoral strain. Pectoral strains are tricky. So talking to teams about these injuries, they can only give you a range of when a player could come back. Pectoral strains are difficult, and Vic talked about it today. He heard it in their weight room. And Vic, Reuben Frank was right next to me when he said it of NBC Sports Philly. And I said, Rube, great question. I don't know why you guys didn't ask this earlier. And because Vic always tells the truth. He said, yeah, he might not be ready week 1. And he didn't really give an indication when he would be ready. So yeah, you're right. So having Arnold Ebiketie as a third edge who moves up, I mean, that's really what he's going to be the first guy off the bench now. If Grenard's not ready, and as Jeff and I said on our show a week or so ago, even if he is ready week one, he had not been. Josh, he's not practiced since last December. How in the world could anybody have any idea what he could do early on in the season, even if he's ready?
Exactly.
That's a problem. You're right.
The same thing to keep an eye on. He's Adam Caplan. Check out the latest pod with him and Andrew DeCecco live from Foxborough for joint practice day 1 between the Eagles and Patriots. And we will hear from Andrew DeCecco after day 2 of joint practice tomorrow here on Football at 4 on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, appreciate you jumping on today.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Josh Hennig here in the 97.3 ESPN studios, the Ocean Casino Resort studios, and they bring you Football at 4 each and every day here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, Ocean Casino Resort with the Fanatics Sportsbook and Ocean Casino's Gallery Bar booking games is Ocean's go-to game day destination with huge screens, great drinks, and all the sportsbook action you want. It's the perfect place to catch every play and celebrate every win this football season. Big screens, big bets, game day hits different at Ocean. To learn more, visit theoceanac.com. Don't forget about all the live entertainment, including next month. Sebastian Maniscalco returns September 17th through the 20th and 24th through the 27th. So a lot to digest there from Adam Caplan. And I see some messages coming in. We'll get to those a little bit later on the Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973, as well as your comments on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. I see Angie in Tuckerton. You know, what's very interesting is that you have Adam Caplan, you know, kind of preaching the wait and see approach when it comes to it. And part of it has to do with what Vic Fangio said today, that, you know, Ty Robinson after last year was on life support. Now he looks like a real player. You know, you have Vic Fangio telling people, you know what, Jahad Campbell, let's see what he develops into. Michael Carter, let's see what he develops into. And Adam is saying, let's be patient on both sides of the ball. Let's not make these big determinations of who they are. But an hour ago, you know, you hear from someone like Sal Palantonio here on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN saying, hey, I'm seeing things to be concerned about. So I think the balancing act is we can be concerned, but we also have the time to afford patience. I think that's where the line is in between the two. I don't think it's time to, you know, blow the horn of, like, you know, danger, Will Robinson, danger. But I do think it's something to ask the question. You came into training camp trading away A.J. Brown. You acquired Jonathan Grenard. You made these moves, adding a new offensive coordinator. You brought in Dontavian Wicks in some ways to replace A.J. Brown, right? You're making all these moves. You let Reed Blankenship go in free agency. You brought in Tariq Woolen. You made all these moves with the idea of what this team could shape up to be for the 2026 season. And I have to wonder, where in that patience realm does the sand in the hourglass run out for the Eagles? Again, I'm not saying that we should all be panicking, but I'm also not saying that everything's going to be kumbaya either. I don't think the Eagles are going to win, 13, 14, 15 games this year. I think that's crazy talk. I think if you look at the Eagles schedule, no matter how good this team is, you realize that for Philadelphia, you heard the stat earlier. Nick Sirianni is 5-0 to start the year. So he'll win week 1 against the Commanders, and he'll probably win week 2 against the Titans. But then it gets interesting because it's at Chicago, Monday Night Football, home against the Rams, on the road in London against Jacksonville. No bye week, by the way. You come back for 2 home games against the Panthers, Monday night against the Cowboys. So that week 3 through week 7 in and of itself is going to be a gauntlet. By the time you get to week 10 in the bye week, where will we be with this team? I tend to think that and again, I'm not doing the win-loss game right now, but just looking at the schedule in and of itself, Philadelphia will be lucky to be 6-3, not because that they shouldn't be the favorite in the majority of those games, but because new offense, new players, everyone's still learning how to gel together. We had the conversation with the Phillies offense earlier in the show. Maybe the Eagles offense is going to need a similar amount of space to gel and develop before the start of the season. If that's the case, I think Eagle fans are not going to be happy with some of the results. I made the comment earlier about there have been games that Jalen Hurts has thrown interceptions and they still won. People are not going to want to see Jalen Hurts going, 12 for 15 with one touchdown and one interception, and Saquon running for 150 yards and them winning 20-14. They're not going to want to do that. Philly fans don't want to hear that. That's why Adam said people are impatient. So it'll be interesting to see how patient are the Eagles, knowing the fans are impatient. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on the Sports Bash, filling in for Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. Of course, if you miss any conversation with Mike Gill in the Sports Bash or myself filling in for Mike Gill, you can catch every interview, every conversation on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. Coming up on the other side, another edition of Nick's Nuggets. Nick Earnshaw is back. What does he have in store for us for the Nuggets? Find out coming up on the other side. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Before we get to our today's edition of Knicks Nuggets here on 97.3 ESPN, we do have the Phillies lineup. Phillies lineup brought to you by Chachi's 13th Floor at Rafici's, now open. And don't forget, this is your chance to win a gift card to Villa Rafici's by texting your name and where you're from. As the Phillies score 13 runs, we'll randomly select one winner for $100 gift card. Phillies don't score 13 runs during the week. Every Friday, we randomly select one winner from a texter into the Sports Bash, and that person will get $25 gift card to Villa Rafici's. To text in at 609-403-0973. So let's get you that Phillies lineup today. Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Luis Arias, Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, Justin Crawford, and Garrett Stubbs is your catcher. We have an interesting change. So a lot of lefties in the lineup today for the Phils. And again, the Phillies lineup is brought to you by Villa Rafici, Chachi's 13th Floors, where you need to be for your fantasy football season. Book your fantasy football league draft at Chachi's 13th Floor above Villa Rafici and app Seeking for just $20 per person. Your draft package includes great food and cold beer. Chachi's 13th Floor, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN. The only change to his lineup is Garrett Stubbs is their catcher. So that means that you got left, right, left, left, right, left, 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 right. This is going to be a stressful night tonight. It's the Phillies or they bring in a left-handed pitcher. That's for sure. Nick Earnshaw is back for today's edition of Knicks Nuggets here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm sure, Nick, you're loving 200 lefties in the lineup tonight.
Just 1,000 million lefties in the lineup tonight for the Philadelphia Phillies. What else is new? It's their whole lineup's lefty. I mean, Lefty Grove is even rolling in his grave at this point. I mean, come on.
That's a good pull by you. Good job there, man.
The Moose and George Earnshaw, Lefty Grove, they were the top two guys in Philadelphia athletics history back in the 1920s, winning that 29-30 championship. Come on.
Yeah, you would know that.
I know. Why? What else? What else do I have to do? What else do I have going on? Anyway, no, it's funny. It's funny that JT's out of the lineup today. I was watching during the game. I'll doom scroll every once in a while, and I'm on TikTok last night, and his inside the park home run from 2022 Atlanta Braves series NLDS game clincher came up on my feed, and I'm like, man, Realmuto can't run for days like he used to anymore. That's why he's getting days off for Garrett Stubbs. It's funny that he's out today because I said that to a buddy last night. I'm like, man, remember this moment when he had the inside the park home run? It was just the beginning of this run, of this era of this Phillies, and now look at the Phillies. They got 100 lefties in the lineup, and I don't even think they have one right-handed bat in there. I mean, it's crazy. How you kind of look back, you're like, man, those guys were spry. One of my favorite words in 2022. And they were just rolling. They were just on such a roll, starting with that wild card series towards the end of that ball game, that first one against St. Louis. And then they rolled through Atlanta and they rolled through San Diego. And then it started off well in the World Series. And then since then, they just could not hit. And then 23 happened, 24, 25. And now here you go once again, Josh.
Listen, I think that the thing with the Phillies is, and I told you before, and I'll say it again. I'm not on the bandwagon. Listen, if they make a deep postseason run, I'll be happy. I like the fact they've won 5 games in a row. I'm happy that they're playing better. I'm happy that Alec Bohm and Bryson Stott are on fire right now. I'm enjoying the moment, but I'm not getting my hopes up for the postseason. I'm not acting like, as you just lined out, that anything that happened in 25, 24, 23, I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen. I'm not Dave Dombrowski saying I'm surprised, all the time. Listen, I'm telling you right now, man, the Phillies, as soon as we get to Labor Day weekend, when that football starts, Phillies are going to get knocked further down the hierarchy of interest. Like, I'm going to watch them because, part of the job we have. But I mean, if I didn't have this job, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be as engaged in the Phillies in September. And I wouldn't be surprised when we get to October, if the Phillies even make the postseason, there will be people probably texting into the text board asking about the Sixers and Flyers for the Phillies, some of them.
Yeah, listen, they've won 5 in a row. They have been awesome. They have been fun to watch since that Field of Dreams game. It's been enjoyable baseball to watch over the past couple of nights, right? Great. They've won 5 in a row. It's awesome. And I'm going to start with the Phillies for nugget number 1. It's, we talked about it on Monday when I was with Pete G over at Ocean. You were on the 1s and 2s. I think they could get hot for a couple weeks here, like a week or two. I think you're going to win 5 games in a row. They could win 8 out of 10. Sure. I think that's totally possible. And then they make moves like signing Nestor Cortez today. Okay. Nasty Nestor gets signed. I like Nestor Cortez. He had a couple of good years there with New York, and he had an all-star appearance and had an ERA under 3 like 2 years in a row. But last year he's coming off an arm injury, and he hasn't pitched in like 11 months, and you're just signing the guy off the street. And I tweeted out today, this is just the most typical Dave Dombrowski Band-Aid type of move. That's what this is, Josh. Signing Nestor Cortez to the team. Now, granted, could he help the team and, eat up some innings for you? Sure, fine. You did the same thing with Walker Buehler last year and then did not use him in the right moments in the postseason at all. You didn't even use him. So I'm fine with them signing him. I mean, why not at this point? But it's like just another Band-Aid that Dave Dombrowski is trying to put on a problem. And he's done it throughout his tenure as the Phillies president of baseball operations. It's a Band-Aid. We were all excited about them possibly getting a real starting pitcher who has been really good this year. Casey Mize, a Robbie Ray, etc. A couple of different names thrown around at the deadline.
Kevin
They didn't
Gausman.
get one. Yeah, Gausman being one from the Blue Jays. Like, there were multiple names thrown around. They didn't get any of them, and they're signing Nestor Cortez off the street. And, I hope he plays well and he gives you some innings and he becomes a nice surprise. But Dave Dombrowski's been relying on too many surprises, and hopefully guys break out and give you something. That's been the type of guy that he signs every single year, whether it's right field or a Walker Buehler or a Nestor Cortez. I mean, we've seen this story happen over and over and over again, Josh.
All right, so here's my position on this, okay? I'm with you. I'm tired of this discount shopping the Phillies do every year when it comes to pitching. And the Phillies and Dave Dombrowski remind me of the guy who insists on going to like the clearance rack at Marshall's or TJ Maxx for all of his clothes when he clearly has more money than he knows what to do with. But because he's so cheap and he's so afraid to spend his money, the Phillies could have moved other prospects at the deadline, but they chose not to.
Yeah.
And Dombrowski's excuse was, well, some people didn't want our prospects. And I just have trouble believing that every single year you just don't have prospects to move and you're worried about the future. If you were worried about the future, you wouldn't have invested so many resources in the older players. You wouldn't have invested into JT Realmuto and Aaron Nola and Taijuan Walker and Nick Castellanos. You would not spend so much money on guys who are 30 years old and up. So to me, I feel like the Phillies are a team that has a wedding this weekend. They don't want to spend the money, so they ran over the Marshalls. They got the cheapest shirt that fits them. They got the cheapest tie that might match the suit and jacket, and they showed up to the wedding, and then the pants rip. The jacket, has a stain on it. And by the end of the night, everyone's like, oh, man, you look like a mess. And they're like, well, we didn't spend a lot of money on it.
No, the problem is, Josh, they're not even getting an actual tuxedo. They're getting the T-shirt tux. That's what they're getting. They're actually buying the T-shirt tuxedo. It looks like an undershirt. All right? I mean, that's what they're buying here when it comes to, like, signing a guy like Cortez. It's like you're hoping, you're praying it works out and it looks good in the photos. You're right. It looks good. You're hoping it's from the waist up. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're hoping, taking those wedding pictures. Because, you're banking on guys to be who they were in the past, who they aren't now. And it's been the Max Keplers of the world. It's been the Adolis Garcias of the world. It's been the Walker Buehlers of the world. It's been the Nestor Cortezes of the world. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Whit Merrifields of the world. Like they just continue to put Band-Aids on problems. And they aren't fixing him. The outfield problem's been an issue since Bryce moved to first base. You never went out and got another outfielder. You have $30 million in right field that you're paying to guys who aren't even playing baseball right now. One guy's totally out of baseball. One's got hurt and was hitting like under 200 before he got hurt. So listen, and it's funny. I was watching that Real Muto video and you brought up Real Muto signing these older players. I just don't know what it is. Are you going all in, or are you just kind of also trying to make sure your team stays afloat for the next couple of years by playing these younger players like Crawford and Painter and not trading them at deadlines in the past to put you over the top? Could that have been a mistake? Probably, because I don't know if Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford are the next iteration of Utley, Rollins, Howard, and Hamels. I don't know if those guys, and Aiden Miller being in the mix too. Like, I don't know if they are those guys again, if you're banking on them. This is a team that was built through free agency, and I expect this team to continue to be built through free agency because I don't trust their farm. I just don't.
All right, what's the next nugget? Because this whole Phillies conversation is depressing me.
Did I ruin your day? I ruined your day with that first one.
I'm not gonna say you ruined my day, but it's
well, I'm just trying to be realistic with the fights. I mean, they won 5 in a row. I'm excited, but my whole thing was, yeah, I'll give them another week, and then they'll be back to really making us angry again. All right. Nugget number 2. Which practice do you want me to start with? the most anticipated joint practice in the history of joint practices up in Foxborough, or do you want me to start with the fun one that happened? I think was it out in L.A. It was probably out in L.A. at a random gym. Which one do you want me to start with? Which one? You choose. You choose.
Oh, you're talking about the picture with Jaylen Brown, LeBron, and Maxey.
Yeah.
Go wherever you want, man. I can. Listen, we've already spent most of the day talking about the Eagles stuff.
I know.
mean,
that's why I'm letting you choose.
If you want to go to Sixers, I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah. Let me get into my Sixers. All right, let's lighten up the mood a little bit.
Your Sixers. Look at that. Now you're personally professing them.
My Sixers over here. All right.
You and Josh Rubin just hanging out.
I can't believe this picture is real. It comes out today. We're all talking about A.J. Brown. We're like, did Jalen and A.J. talk to each other? Did Devontae talk to A.J.? What did A.J. say? Was he getting upset with reporters? I mean, oh, my God. Enough. Who cares? He's a diva. He's up in Foxborough. I don't care. You know what the real practice that is more important to Philadelphia and sports in this area? It's the one that occurred between LeBron James, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown. Yes, they were seen together practicing for the first time. Pictures have come out of the crew, and it is phenomenal. They were in the gym. Chris Johnson Hoops put it out on the X platform and on social media. I mean, look at that. Those guys are teammates, by the way. LeBron to the left, Maxey in the middle, Jaylen Brown to the right. They practice for the first time and as teammates together that we know and as public knowledge. That comes out today, and the anticipation can't get enough. Did you see VJ Edgecombe as well for the Bahamas in qualifiers? He's in a tournament right now. I believe it was against Puerto Rico. He shot 55% from three-point land. I mean, there are just things floating out there on social media. And then this picture comes out of LeBron, Maxey, Brown, practicing together, getting some work in, getting some run in. Oh, get excited like Tom McGinnis says, Josh. There you go.
All right, first of all, we're talking about practice, okay? with both,
it's a tease.
Okay, exactly. It's a tease. It's like I mentioned the comment earlier about, one of the reasons why people love preseason football games because it's like the trailer for their favorite movies coming out and they get excited. So now they don't have the trailer anymore. So it's hard for them to wrap their head around the movie that's coming out. This is a teaser trailer. This is like one of those like 10-second teaser trailers for like a Jason Statham movie, and all you see is Statham, punching someone in the face and saying, you want some more, and then it just fades to black. That's what this is. Listen, I know LeBron, Maxey, and Jaylen Brown are going to play together. I know they like each other. Okay,
but to see it, and then here on Nuggets, me talk about it with you and with the audience out there. I mean, can you believe this is real? This is a real photo. That's not AI. That's not Photoshop. That's a real photo of your future 76ers right there. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it.
Well, the reason why we know it's a real photo is because there's two guys on the end that 99% of our audience has no idea who they are. But they're two of LeBron's boys.
YouTube.
They're two of LeBron's boys who he works out with every summer for like the last several years. They're part of like the run team when it comes to running up and down the court in the offseason with LeBron and the clutch agent. So that's how you know, first of all, not AI, is because those two guys would not be in any AI photo. Okay. But here's the thing. I gotta say Billy Schweim is right about something. Okay.
Oh, no.
And he's probably not listening because Billy's too busy being Billy. Okay. But so maybe someone could pass it along, because everyone seems to love to hear when people say things about Billy and then tell him about it as some like covert spy information. So why don't you pass along this message to Billy Schweim, you spies and you snakes out there. All right. Billy's right about one thing specifically. Your love for the Sixers is probably up there with anyone else I know. Between you and Mike Gill, you guys love your 76ers as much, if not more, than almost anyone else I know. Like it falls somewhere between obsession and admiration. Like it's impressive, man.
Listen, I sit here and it just mind boggles me that this is real. They actually have LeBron James and Jaylen Brown on their roster. I think this is going to be a dangerous team. I really do. Like, I don't know if there's going to be that slump that people talk about. The way they've been interacting with the media and publicly about how they're going to go about this whole thing, it's just been really professional. And that's the way I think this team's going to be next year. I think they're going to be a professional team. And you know where that started? That started when Bob Myers had his hand in everything and Mike Gansey was hired. There's a level of professionalism that I feel like the Sixers now have since they hired those guys. And it has started at the top with Bob Myers all the way down. That's just the way I'm seeing this whole thing. The way they've gone about it all, I think, has been very professional.
Listen, you're not gonna get disagreement from me, man. I think that, I was a big fan of Bob Myers taking control like you were. I was never a Daryl Morey guy. I didn't hate Daryl Morey, but I'm kind of like Evan Cohen, the fact that I never understood the infatuation with him. So listen, I'm excited, but I told you before, I'm the kind of person, and I know you hate when I say this, but I'll say it anyway. I'm the kind of person that I'm an in-season individual. Okay. When October comes around, that's when you're going to see me more juicing about the Sixers.
This isn't a Ben Simmons video, Josh. It's not a Ben Simmons video.
Doesn't matter. It's the kind of sports fan I am. I am not the guy who spends the entire offseason, rewatching the trailer for the movie 20 times and breaking it down. Like,
I am.
To me, it's a nice picture. I hope they put it on the wall and frame it. They all look very happy together. But until I see LeBron on the court in a Sixers uniform, that's when I'm going to lose my mind. Okay.
All right. Fair enough. I already got my King shirt, so I'm ready to rock. All right.
I know. I saw that. It's a nice shirt by you.
All right. What do you got? I know you got another nugget for me before I get out of here.
Well, because I know everyone loves Nick Earnshaw or hates Nick Earnshaw's takes on food. So they were having a conversation this morning on the Golix, heard from 10 a.m. to 12 on 97.3 ESPN. And the conversation started out about, what you should or shouldn't put different condiments on. So I wanted to get your take on this part of the conversation, because again, you're a different individual when it comes
Very
to
different.
food. Okay. But, I feel like, Golick really spoke to me to an extent here. And I want to see if you can kind of pick out which part that he says that resonated with me this morning on the Golicks here on 97.3 ESPN.
To me, ranch can only make things better, though. It is never a net negative on any food that would normally pair well with ranch. Obviously, you're not going to put it on chocolate or dessert, but for a ranch tangent food, it is only a plus. It is never a minus.
So I'm one of those, you can have whatever variants of food you want. Like, my thought is, I don't do it, but I'm not going to begrudge somebody else if they like that. I'm not going to begrudge.
I'm not saying what he likes is wrong. I'm saying what he thinks is bad is wrong. Yeah.
I'm getting to that. He can like honey on the pizza. That's fine. But don't disparage something else that somebody may like. I love ranch on pretty much anything, blue cheese on anything.
Nick Earnshaw, your reactions.
Okay. First of all, I can't stand ranch. Ranch is like the worst. That's first and foremost. I will never put ranch on a thing ever. I'll do barbecue sauce here and there, but I'm very plain, as many people know.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I wouldn't begrudge anybody for what they like. It's it's what you like. I'm just gonna tell you how I feel about it. You know what I mean? So, are you a ranch guy? Is that what I'm taking from this?
No, it's the begrudge part.
Okay,
See,
that's right. I wasn't sure. I thought that's what you were talking about. You were getting at begrudging anyone for what they like. It's what they like.
Whenever you and Gill argue about the flats versus the wings,
yeah,
and your conversations with Billy about the plain hot dog and everything, for me, I just look at it as like me. I'm a passionate guy. Okay, I get up and down about a lot of things. But one of those things is not people's personal preferences. Like, to me, you know what? If no ranch in your life makes you happy,
it
cool,
does.
Man. I want you to be happy. I want you to enjoy that plate of food in front of you. I don't want you ordering something and being miserable.
Here is the thing. I won't begrudge anyone. I will just tell them they're wrong. And they're just dead wrong. Drums are not better than flats. It's just a fact. Okay. And flats are way better than drums, and ranch is not needed. It's not necessary, and nothing needs to go on a hot dog. That's all. I just think you're wrong. I'm not going to begrudge. You can do what you want, but I'm just going to say you're in the wrong here. That's all. That's all.
I'm just saying, I'll eat both. I'm an equal opportunity individual over here,
That's fine. You would please help yourself. Help yourself, Josh. That's what I'll say to that. No ranch. I'm out.
You're back tomorrow, right?
I'll be back tomorrow. Yes, I'll be back.
All right. I'm trying to keep up. I got Sal Powell calling me in the middle of a break, asking if I could squeeze him into the show today. I'm having an interesting day today. Okay.
Shout out Sal Powell. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Josh.
That's Nick Earnshaw here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up, we got Dave Gallagher joining us to talk about how much do we buy into the Phillies winning 5 straight and their offense coming around. We'll get his perspective next on 97.3.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Heading to Foxborough to face the AFC champion Patriots. Saturday night game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
He takes his drop. He's looking. He's grabbed. They're going to sack him and throw him down at the 23-yard line. Jalen Carter.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
Ventnor Social is Down Beach's go-to place for game days. No shower happy hours, beach nights, live music, great food, cold drinks, and being social. From cheering on Phillies baseball team and other sports action on their 20 big screen TVs, to enjoying a cold beverage on the roof deck, to playing an arcade game, plus game day food and wing specials, along with other delicious cuisine. Get social at Ventnor Social, Ventnor Avenue in Ventnor. Check out their Facebook page for the latest specials and events.
Celebrating family fun since 1955, Storybook Land in Egg Harbor Township is more than just rides, it's an atmosphere. They bring classic childhood stories to life with creative displays throughout the park. Have fun at your own pace and enjoy all you can see and do in this fully shaded theme park. Get your tickets and check out their upcoming special events at StorybookLand.com.
Create your own story at Storybookland.
Bring the whole family and create your own story at Storybookland.
T-Mobile is launching something no other wireless network offers. Introducing Nothing. Pay nothing today and walk out of the store with a new phone.
What did he say?
Nothing.
You definitely said something about nothing.
Exactly. Go to T-Mobile, pay nothing up front, and leave with a new phone.
Wait, nothing rules.
She gets it.
Hey, thanks for nothing.
For the first time ever, switch to T-Mobile, pay nothing. No taxes, no fees, no money down. And walk out with a new phone. There are 250 reasons to choose T-Mobile, and now nothing is holding you back.
On eligible devices with qualifying credit plan and 36-month finance agreement.
That pallet of pavers collecting dust, the beginnings of a garden, those stray fence posts. Are you haunted by half-finished projects on your land? John Deere is here to say, not anymore. Our compact tractors allow you to swap implements easily, and they're backed by the nation's largest dealer network. You always had the right idea, and with the right tools, those projects can get finished for good. Nothing runs like a Deere. Learn more at johndeere.com/compact tractors.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill. 5 o'clock hour, driving you home or driving you to the shore or wherever you're going. Or from the shore. I felt like there was like a gazillion people leaving the shore towns today when I was driving into the studio. But either way, we're hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN. Let's get back to the baseball talk. A lot of football talk today, but the Phillies, they have won 5 straight in large part because of their offense. I'm excited for us to have back Dave Gallagher, of course, 9-year MLB veteran, former Phillies player, joining us to talk more about why the Phillies offense has suddenly come alive in recent weeks. Dave Gallagher joining us right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Welcome back to the show. How's it going, Dave?
Well, good, Josh. It's nice to be talking about the Phillies after a winning streak, right?
Well, that's the funny part, which is, in the past, Dave, when we talked about the Phillies having a winning streak, we focused on the pitching, right? The conversation, Christopher Sanchez had the scoreless streak months ago. Zach Wheeler had that hot stretch. And now all of a sudden, it's the offense. So can you give me and the audience an idea of when you're a baseball player and you're playing at that level, when you have guys all of a sudden just start getting hot, like, is that like a contagious thing in the locker room? Like, what is the vibe like when you have a team that is averaging almost 7 runs a game during a winning streak?
I do think it's contagious. I really do. I've been around it long enough to know. And it's not just baseball. You've seen in basketball, when a team's up by 20 or 25, they know the other team's going to make a run at some point. So I'm a big believer in momentum. But there was a study done, this is a while ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago, NCAA, Division I schools, a very high percentage of teams that won games scored more runs in one inning than the opponent scored in the entire game. I think that if you just really think about that, that's hitting is contagious, and that's momentum. But here's what I don't want to miss. And people are going to think like I must have something from Mattingly or I'm his agent or something. I do like the guy. I mean, just strictly from a baseball playing standpoint, I loved playing against him. I've made that abundantly obvious on this station. But I just like, I don't understand why he is not given more credit. When you talk about the offense, he takes over. I believe they were 9-19, and they were not swinging it collectively. They were not hitting. He steps in. Now, I remember lefties, especially, and him being a fantastic left-handed hitter himself. I felt like the lefties made huge jumps. Stott, at the time, Marsh started to go off. And I felt like, well, the guy's going to hang around the turtle, the batting cage. He's going to make comments. He's going to give these guys advice when he can. And he's going to be helpful because he was damn good at it. And they turned it around. You're right. Pitching was awesome. But their hitting turned around. Then they go a little bit flat. And I don't know exactly the day, but I heard that recently Mattingly met with the team. I think it was after the break. Maybe it was right before the break. The trade deadline, I mean.
Yep, right before the deadline.
Yeah, and he talked to them. And I've seen bits and pieces of interviews where he said, look, I just said, let's not go up to the plate without a plan. Let's have a plan, have an approach that makes some sense. And is it a coincidence that all of a sudden they, again, I would say collectively, these guys started hitting again? And it does look like a plan. So yesterday was kind of funny. I'm watching the game and Bohm had that base hit. Actually, it was a double. And I could tell watching the game that the ball came off the bat funny because the left fielder, in fact, they were saying on air that he misplayed it. He didn't misplay it. It ran away from him in a strange way. It went left to right. And that's what happens when you hit the inside of the baseball. You create that spin that makes it tail. That's what he did. That's by design. When you are staying inside the ball, your barrel is kind of attacking the ball behind your hand. And it gives you the ability mechanically to hit all pitches. That's what Bohm does well. I've said that so many times over the last couple of years. So that's why he can be a big RBI guy without hitting for a ton of power. And he's done it consistently, you know?
All right, so let's back up for a minute, because you mentioned about the meeting. We'll get to Bowman in a minute, because I think he's a very interesting conversation. You mentioned about the meeting. So give the audience an insight into like what that kind of meeting would be, because I think for the average fan, right, they might think of like the movie Major League, right, and they're all standing around the locker room and nothing really is getting done in the meeting, right? But like this feels like a meeting where Mattingly kind of had a heart-to-heart with the guys, because this month, Dave, the Phillies have the most walks in all of baseball, right? In the month of August, they are top 5 in on-base percentage. They are top 5 in contact rate. Like whatever number you want to use, they're there. So what happens in a meeting like that? What could have been said that Don Mattingly to the players that would have gotten them this zeroed in?
I can really help you and your listening audience with this answer, because I had to do it as a player. I was failing miserably on sliders. Like Turner went through that for at least a month earlier this year, where the opponent knew, the opposing pitcher knew, I'll show him fastballs, maybe in off the plate, but I'm going to get him out with sliders away, not even in the strike zone. And he would just chase. But I also was the hitting coach for a couple of years for the Red Sox AA. And I remember calling a meeting. DeMarlo Hale was the manager. He's now bench coach for the Blue Jays. And I went to him. That's the right thing to do. Like, do you mind if I talk to the players? No, Gally, I don't mind at all. So I went and I called all the offensive players. And I remember asking them, I said, let's go around the room and you guys tell me what your stay back approach is. Some people call it a 2-strike approach, but just staying back, like you can use that in any count. You can use it in 0-0 count if you've been struggling, you feel like you haven't been seeing the ball well. But what exactly is it? And I told them there is no wrong answer. You just tell me the answer of what helps you to wait on pitches. So interesting. I go around the room and you're hearing some answers that are kind of pretty easy. Well, right-handed hitter, I just try to hit it over the second baseman's head. Okay, well, you're waiting to do that. Some guys, I try to hit it to center or right center. Left-handers, I try to go over to shortstop's head. I heard one I thought was interesting. I'd never heard it before. And the guy was leading the AA Eastern League in hitting at the time. He said, well, it's going to sound funny, but I like to think slider bat speed. And I thought about it, and I went, his name was Rod. I said, Rod, I love that. Because a slider, if you're thinking of hitting a slider, it's a little bit slower than a fastball, and it's a little bit faster than a curve or a change. So it's really very similar to what somebody is saying, well, I try to wait and hit it the other way. You're all waiting. But the biggest point is it can't just be a sentence of words that you're telling me. It's got to be real. You have to apply it, so it has to look different. Josh, if we were watching a game tonight, all right, we're watching the Phillies or your listeners, and somebody gets to a 1-2 count, and the pitcher's got 3 or 4 possible pitches. He pulls a fastball down the left field line foul. It might look good. He hit it hard. But that's like, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? You were thinking of an inside fastball and you turned on it early. You have no chance on the next pitch that's coming. Now, if he's a little bit late, fights it off. Stott does that a lot. Arise does it a ton. That's because they're trying to cover all pitches. So if you're a little bit late on a fastball, it's because you're trying to cover a possible change, curve, sweeper nowadays, right? So I had to do it. I had to learn how to wait, and I did. And for me, my plan was I'm going to stay on this guy's fastball, but that could vary. The guy on the mound might throw 92. He might throw 97. That's different timing. So whoever's on the mound that day, I'm going to try to time his fastball and hit it through the middle. And I'm hoping that that's making me wait long enough that if it's a slider or a changeup, maybe I can get the barrel on that and hit it to the pull size. Like I'm just trying to give myself a margin of error in my timing while I'm trying to recognize this darn pitch. If it sounds hard, it's because it is. But it really is. It's very hard, but that's what Bohm does when he's back. That's what everybody does Listen to Ruben Amaro or John Crook, the guys that did this so well and know the game like the back of their hand. You'll hear them say, "Oh, he just drove the ball the opposite gap. That's what he looks like when he's going well." It's because it's the truth. It means you're staying on the ball well. So yeah, I believe that's exactly the type of meeting they had. You're still going to make your share of outs, but can you imagine the entire team having an approach that looks competitive, that makes sense? You're not an easy out. This is why their situational hitting has sucked. It's just because you can't just take the same swing and the same approach on every count and every situation. It's not the pitcher's job to hit the sweet spot of your barrel. It's not his job to do that. He's trying to stay off it. You got to kind of think like him once in a while. Okay, runner on third, less than 2 outs. He'd like to get a ground ball here. Infield's in. He wants a ground ball. He's probably going to throw something down. Does he have a two-seamer? Because if he does, he's going to start it at your knees. It's going to end up at your shins, and he's hoping you pound it into the ground. This is we could do this whole half-hour segment of me talking about this stuff, but that's what it is. And if your listeners are waiting for me to say Kevin Long, I will guarantee Kevin Long had a lot to say in that meeting, but he will defer to Don Mattingly just as I would, or anybody with, any alumni that played the game at the highest level with any common sense. You defer to a guy like that when he's talking hitting. I'll throw some stuff in there, but I want to hear what he has to say because he did it so well with power, with batting average, not a ton of strikeouts for a guy to hit a lot of home runs. So, yeah, why wouldn't they listen, right?
Absolutely. Dave Gallagher joining us here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, Dave played as a Phillies outfielder during the 90s. He was a 9-year MLB veteran. So you just mentioned Bohm a couple times. Let's hit on him. Okay, this is a guy who you mentioned earlier. He's not a guy whose skill set is hitting home runs. And so it felt like at times his plate approach was he was trying to make maximum contact earlier this year, especially when he was struggling. The guy I'm watching now, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Dave, he looks like a guy who's going up to the plate and saying, where's the pitch I can make contact with? He's not worrying about how hard the contact is. And I think that's a big reason why this month he has hit so well.
Yeah. When you see a guy, I'll go back to approach. You're also trying to make a living. Let's be realistic, So early on in your professional baseball career, you're like if you let a dog go into a pack of dogs and they run up and sniff each other. I don't want to say on the air where they're sniffing, but they sniff each other. They're trying to feel each other out. That's what players do. You sign a contract, you go to rookie ball, you look around and you're asking yourself, do I belong? Or if I'm an outfielder, let me look at the other half a dozen outfielders. Oh, why is that guy on the team? And then you see him hit a ground ball and beat it out. Ground ball to short. That's why he's on the team. This kid's from California. He can fly. They're trying to teach him how to hit. So you feel your way through, and then you start climbing if you're lucky, if you're good enough, right? A lot of guys get released. Now you're in AA, AAA. You get to the big leagues. You start to realize how can you get a roster spot to get paid and feed your family. And if you do it well, you may feed generations of families, right, of your family. So now we go back to Bohm. He doesn't run well at all. His defense is average at best wherever you put him. He doesn't hit for a ton of power. Now, 5 years ago, whenever he broke in, I was one that said, I think eventually he'll be a 25, 30 home run guy just because of his build, the lankiness. I thought he would be, and he's not. He's had several opportunities. So what he'll do is, okay, I got to be decent with my average. I got to be a run producer. And he figured out early on how to do that without hitting home runs. Well, I can't strike out a ton with runners in scoring position. Josh, think about it over the last few years. Even if you hate this guy as a fan, he's always hit well with runners in scoring position. It's not a coincidence. He's not going to get infield hits. He doesn't run well. It's his approach. It makes a lot of sense. And when you need points on your batting average, your best bet is to see the ball long, cut your strikeouts down. How do you do it? a stay back approach. You know what I mean? And the balls that you pull, I'll bring up Derek Jeter, what he did so well. He inside out fastballs with 2 strikes. And if you hung a curveball, all of a sudden, since his barrel was back protecting against that fastball, he's got room now to get the curveball out front because it was slower. He'll hit a home run to left on a curve or a changeup, and he hit home runs to right on a fastball. That's covering everything. And again, I'll leave the conversation, this part of it, with this. If you're a pitcher that's facing that kind of a lineup, everybody is taking you deep in counts. They're not chasing, forcing you to come into the zone. That's a tough way to pitch, right? How long are you going to last? Are you going to get through 5? That's tough. And that's who I think they look like right now. They got to maintain it. They've been very inconsistent this year.
So then, it feels like we're painting a picture, Dave, to the audience that part of the reason why this team is averaging almost 7 runs a game in this 5-game winning streak, the reason why they're averaging over 6 runs in all of their wins since the All-Star break, it sounds like a lot of it is basically down to the mental side of the game more than the physical. It's the approach. It's the how are they approaching the pitcher, how are they approaching the at-bat, how are they approaching the game situation. And it seems like everyone gets what you're talking about except for Trey Turner. So explain to the audience why you could have a lineup where everyone seems like they're making contact, they're having great at-bats, and then you might have one guy in the lineup who is still on the struggle bus.
Yeah, it's just sometimes it's a confidence level. You beat yourself up, and you can't see that. Like I could have my confidence lowest it's been in an entire season. If you saw me on deck, if you were at the game, you wouldn't know it. I'm just taking my practice things. I'm not going to show you, and I'm certainly not going to show the staff and the manager that's writing out the lineup. You hold it in. It's like one of the worst things that an athlete can do because it's not healthy. And that's how sometimes I'm being realistic. Sometimes guys get in trouble because you want to punish yourself. You want to help the team so bad. And when you're playing poorly over a period of time, you go back to a gorgeous hotel every night. They take you back to that hotel when you're on the road. And when you come in through the doors, you look and there's the elevator right up to your room. It's what you should be doing. But there's the bar. And sometimes, like, I'm just being real so that your listeners can get a feel of what this life can be like. It takes a lot of discipline. Walk past the damn bar when you're down, because it will be too easy to go over there and punish yourself, and beat yourself up. And that's never a good answer. It's never a good answer to a problem. You got to get up to the room. You got to try, to eat right, get your sleep, get back to the ballpark, go early, go down, work with somebody, work your hitting coach in the batting cage, and do it again. And that in itself does not guarantee you a thing, because the pitcher could care less about your work ethic. He's going to try just as hard to get you out that next night. And now it starts to pile up. Well, I did what I was supposed to do. I ate right. I slept. I hit early. Then I took more front toss before the game, and I still went 0 for 5. Okay, you got to do it again. The answer always has to be, I'll go early tomorrow and work. That's what I am most proud of. I'm not in the Hall of Fame. Not even close. I don't think any of the teams I played for even know when I retired, because I didn't make an announcement. Nobody cares. I saw that Trey Mancini announced his retirement, and I thought, yeah, he was a good dude. I know he ran into some health issues. And I laughed at myself and thought, I never announced my retirement. Nobody cared. I didn't get like the team to give me a motorcycle or something, But now that's the life, and I'm most proud of always answering lack of confidence or lack of production with work. And I know I feel good about it. My kids got to see me, like, they were young, but they got to see how I went about it. My wife, who doesn't like baseball, never did, but she saw the amount of effort and work, and we can kind of instill that into our children. I got 5 of them. So I know I give long answers, but that's the reality of the game. When you guys are watching these games, that's what's behind the scenes. And right now they're in a good way. There's enough games where they're going to slide again. But that is what happened with Mattingly. And I got to say, there was an article of, I think his name is Bob Nightingale, put out.
USA Today.
And
yep.
yeah, and I mean, he's a good writer, and he's got a lot of pop, a lot of influence. And I actually called him out on it on X. I just said, I think that's irresponsible, because when you put an article like that out, it spreads, and it did. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, who knows what's going to happen the rest of the way. But as of so far, Mattingly, if the season ended today, he'd have to get a lot of votes for manager of the year. He'd have to. He flipped this thing around. What's been like a 20 game or 21 game swing? So has there ever been a manager that won manager of the year and then got fired? I wonder. And I'm not being sarcastic. I wonder. You know, I just think this guy needs to and deserves to get some credit. And I do think it should come from Dave Dombrowski. Like, you see these articles that I'm reading, come out and say, like, if you want Cora, okay, I guess you're not going to come out and say that. But this guy deserves better, I believe. And like I said, I'm not his agent. He doesn't need me to say anything good about him. I just feel like I'm witnessing what he's doing with these players. And come on, man, that bullpen, it's starting to show some life, like they're finally figuring out some pieces. I love Raley. And you know why I love Raley? Because he attacks hitters. You can live with it if he attacks hitters and they get a single, a double, roll a ball through the infield. Okay, that you can live with, as opposed to walk, hit by batter, pop up. Oh, we might get out of it. Nope, double in a gap. You lost. Like, you see too much of that in their bullpen. He at least attacks. He's going to have a role, and a very important role, finishing this season off.
Absolutely. And, you know, to wrap this up, I did want to ask you one more about the hitting, because, you know, Bryce Harper, we mentioned about the Don Mattingly, you know, meeting before the deadline, but there's also something else that happened. You know, Bryce Harper is on a 22 game on base streak right now, Dave. It's actually the most he has had in a decade in his career. But you know what that 22 days dates back to? It dates back to the day where he told the media, we need more help around here. So that means Harper went to the media and said, we need more help. And the next day started, you know, upping his job. So when you have a star player, not just come out and say, hey, we need a little more help around here, but then also put, you know, his work in where his mouth is, what does that say to the rest of the guys?
Yeah, Bryce is a different animal. I've done this program called the Rookie Career Program. It's a cooperative effort between MLB and MLB Players Association. I've done that darn thing for probably about 27, 28 years. Bryce was a rookie, and he was in my group, a group of about 12 players. And I was looking forward to it because we're not teaching them baseball. It's everything other than the game that these players are about to embark into, like dealing with finances, rookies dealing with veteran players, dealing with agents, dealing with the media. And it's helpful. It's the top 4 prospects of every organization gets invited to it. He was in my group, and I thought, boy, he's going to be helpful, because this kid, you know, think of his path to professional baseball. I want to say he used a wood bat in college. Like, he was preparing to be a big leaguer from a very young age. And he had an agent, a representative at a very young age. So he's kind of like, you look at what he said. I don't agree with it. I don't think it should have been public. I think he could have gone straight to Dombrowski in an office, because Mattingly's point was right. When you say that, you are talking about your team. And the players now are left to think, well, who's he talking about? He's talking about, we need help. Is it me? I'm the 23rd, 24th, 25th guy on the roster. So that was Mattingly's point. But as far as like him making a statement, putting pressure on himself, I think he likes pressure. And that's a rare guy, a rare athlete that loves the pressure, wants to be up in a big spot. I think a lot of guys fake it. And some of that probably is tied to how your confidence level is at the time. I just feel like if you watch his body language, he wants to be up in a big spot all the time. He don't mind it. He don't mind it at all. He does not wilt. And a lot of times he steps up, you know?
Absolutely. Great stuff today from Dave Gallagher. Glad we can get him on, even though Mike Gill is with his baseball team up in Jamestown, New York. And of course, Dave joins us each and every week here on the Sports Bash, talking baseball on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, folks can also follow you, Dave, on the X platform. So if folks want to get more of the thoughts and perspective of Dave Gallagher, they can follow you at Dave Gallagher 22 on X. You tweet up a storm over there, my friend.
I do. You know, what's dangerous is every once in a while, not so much anymore, but I love my bourbon. And I'm not an everyday drinker, but if I'm sipping on a bourbon and I'm putting tweets out and watching the Phillies, I could be dangerous. I can be dangerous. You never know.
Well, thank you for the warning then.
Yeah. Real quick. How's Mike's team doing? Did you hear anything?
The last thing I heard is that they are in line for the number 1 seed, but they were supposed to have a game earlier today, but there was a rain delay. So I think they're actually playing now. They were actually supposed to play about 4 hours ago, but apparently rain got in the way of the tournament. So I probably won't know anything more until later tonight.
Well, he better bring home a ring or a trophy or whatever, or else we're going to have to make different arrangements next Wednesday.
Dave, great stuff. I'll talk to you later.
I can't be involved with a loser.
Take care, Dave.
All right, Josh. Take care.
Great stuff there from Dave Gallagher here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill. We will continue the Phillies conversation on the other side after this short break. We got Oscar for Phillies Fastball today. More Phillies talk coming up. Don't forget tonight, it's Aaron Nola versus Sandy Alcantara. We'll get into the matchup and more coming up next here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
We have the Phillies covered.
Swing and a drive, right field, way back, forget it, out of here. Kyle Schwarber hammers one over the right field wall.
Get the best Phillies baseball coverage on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
Town Square Media has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible offers from some fantastic local businesses. Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. Get one $50 gift card for just $25 to the Island Grill in Ocean City. It's the area's go-to restaurant for fresh catch local seafood with a laid-back beach vibe. That's a $50 gift card for just $25. Get this great deal starting this Friday at seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com.
On the Pick Patio for live music from local artists, Full Step Back, Mike Beck, Steve D, an experiment duo. Planning a fantasy draft? Make all your picks at the Piccalilli Inn, home of world-famous wings and home-style favorites on Route 206 in Chemung, New Jersey since 1927. Find them on Facebook or piccalilli.com.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Rain returns tomorrow. Not an all-day washout, but it will be a carry-the-umbrella situation with rumbles of thunder and pockets of heavy stuff possible. Tonight stays quiet. We'll see increasing clouds and a low of 72. Tomorrow will be mostly cloudy, with showers and thunderstorms likely for part of the day. Right now, I think the wettest part of the day will be the afternoon. High of 83. Friday, partly sunny with a high of 81. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
We have the perfect solution for sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The 5 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Cross County Connection, providing fare-free transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-7571 or visit driveless.com.
Without further ado, it is time for our Phillies fastball segment. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Wednesday edition on 97.3 ESPN. Everyday Phillies fastball is brought to you by Ventnor Social, the place to go to catch every Phillies game on their 20 big screen TVs while enjoying great food and drink. Visit their Facebook page for up-to-date info and specials. Plus, don't forget the Sports Bash. Mike Gill will be back there on the 26th of this month. Right now, to get more into the Phillies' 5-game winning streak. It's a lot of offense. Oscar Budejen is back for today's edition of Phillies Fastball on 97.3 ESPN. Oscar, have you been enjoying the consistent offense for once?
I mean, after what I just heard, I probably I need a bourbon. I haven't watched the game with a bourbon, but that would be fun. Look, it's incredible. I mean, what this team has done. I mean, a week ago we were complaining that they couldn't score runs against the Minnesota and not the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. We couldn't score runs, and now they begin to have meetings. I mean, hitting meetings, and I hope they have defensive meetings and running meetings and a bunch of different meetings to be able to get this team back on track. And look, we win the last 5 games, and it looks like a completely different team. I mean, I'm a little bit, I wouldn't use the word concern, but it's interesting where we are with both Wheeler and Sanchez. They're not looking as sharp as we would like them to look. But again, it's a long season. It's a marathon. Look, if there is a pitcher that I trust in this world, is Zach Wheeler. He knows he might be running into a dead arm. I mean, that happens throughout a season, and hopefully he can just turn it around in a couple of starts and we'll be up and running. But this team is playing really. I mean, look, what I saw yesterday from Alec Bohm and from Bryson Stott, I've never seen them playing this good. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, the play that Alec Bohm made at first base with that line drive and then touching the bag and hitting in clutch situations. I mean, Stotts has always been a very good hitter with runners in scoring position, but it feels different. I mean, it feels different when they're able to hit like this. It just expands the whole lineup. And even though the top 3 hitters didn't do much yesterday, I mean, I don't know. They won. I can check here right now. I mean, Schwarber won 1 for 5. Turner was 0 for 4, and Harper was 0 for 2. Arias was 3 for 4. I mean, the top guys didn't hit, and it didn't matter. I mean, Baum, Stott, I mean, even Crawford. I mean, they have been playing at a different level, without a doubt. So, hey, good news. I mean, that's good news. Hopefully they can keep it up.
It's interesting you mentioned about Bohm. Let's hit on that a little bit more for a moment, Oscar, because Bohm the other day credited this before unknown meeting that Mattingly had with the team for part of the offensive turnaround. And you have to wonder, like Dave Gallagher was talking about how when you have a guy of Mattingly's profile, right, as a former player, when he speaks, guys listen a little differently.
Almost Hall of Fame player. I mean, he used to be a big time hitter.
Right. So the way, if I'm piecing it together between who Mattingly is and how Bohm spoke about that meeting, it almost sounds like Mattingly must have said something in that meeting that resonated with Alec Bohm.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, and you're looking at it and it's resonating, and it goes back to having a plan when you go to the plate and don't swing at the first pitch. I mean, I've felt for a long time that Alec Bohm is scared of going into deep counts and getting strikeouts or not being successful. So he likes to go after the first pitch. I think he's been a lot more patient. This lineup have been a lot more patient. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, Judge. When I look at the numbers, when I look at what this team is today, this team 3 weeks ago was the worst team in baseball getting runners in scoring position. In the month of August, we're number 2 in baseball with runners in scoring position. The only difference is we have right now, we have a great hitter that makes a lot of contact in a rise. But I mean, you look at we're third in or second in scoring runs. We're number 2 with runners in scoring. I mean, getting on base. I mean, it's just we are number 2 in baseball in base on balls. That's unheard of. I mean, we're 23rd in all of baseball a week ago. You look at the stats for the entire year, we're 23rd. The team that is hitting in August is different than the team that have hit all year. And I think the big differences are those 3 guys. I mean, because, look, Schwarber, he's going to hit a home run here and there. He was unlucky a couple of days ago or yesterday where he hit that home run and then they pull him back. It was a 3-run shot. He could have had his 39 home run of the year. Then they said that it was a foul ball. But look, this team, I mean, if Bohm, let me put it this way. If Bohm, Stott, and Crawford hit, this team is going to go very far in the playoff because that's what they're missing. That's what they're missing. They're missing extending this lineup. And if the entire lineup can hit, I mean, we're going to be much better position. And by the way, Realmuto is there for his defense. He's not there for his hitting. So everybody's going crazy with Realmuto. Look, I do understand there's a lot more catchers that are hitters in today's game than it used to be. But take a look at Riley. I mean, he's struggling this year. Riley's not the same player that was number 2 in the MVP last year. So it's not easy. It's a very heavy workload. You get behind home plate. You get a lot of hits. I mean, it's very hard to be a hitter, a very good catcher and a hitter. And look, Realmuto does his part. And look, I will never forget that Realmuto hit that first home run in the 9th inning. Or in the 9th inning to win Game 1 of the World Series in 2022. It was a home run by JT Realmuto that got us that victory.
I will say, and I can't speak for everyone, Oscar, I feel like the reason why people feel the way about Realmuto is because of the contract. It's not because of him. I mean,
it's not his fault. It's not his fault. I mean, is the management, is the Phillies management, they would have signed Bichette and they might have gone a different direction, or JT could have come here on a 1-year deal like Goddard does for the Eagles, for example. You could have done a Goddard deal with him where he comes with, maybe you pay him a little bit more, but it's a 1-year deal and you don't have to commit to a 3-year commitment. So, and that's the way I look at it. But it was the Phillies' fault. Immediately when they couldn't sign Bichette, they didn't have anybody else to do it. Plan C was getting back JT on a 3-year deal, and his agent was pretty strict that they won $15 million a year, and that's what he got.
Talking with Oscar Budejen for today's Phillies Fastball presented by Ventnor Social. Phillies tonight, Oscar, it's Aaron Nola versus Sandy Alcantara. And what I find interesting is Nola, that last start, that looked like a vintage Nola. And in fact, this month, he has been pitching pretty well. Do you feel like Aaron Nola has kind of refound himself here?
It's not even a month. It's the last 8 outings from him, dating back to July. I'm looking at here, July 5th. Since July 5th until now, he's had 8 starts. In those 8 starts, there is only 1 start that he allows 7 runs. Outside of that, he's been 3 or less run in every single start. One in the last one, it was 1 run. I thought he could have gone another inning, in my opinion, at the Field of Dreams game. He could have gone another inning, and they decided to take him out. But look, he's doing his part. He's doing his part. The other thing is they had not won with him on the mound since May of 26th of this year. So he had he had probably like 13 or 14 outings that I see here where he didn't win a game. He had lost 5 straight games, and now in the last outing at the Field of Dreams, he was able to win his fourth game of the year. He's 4-9 right now with a 5.33 ERA. Look, I like what I've seen. I like what I've seen of him over the last 2 months, and I believe that we'll continue to see that, a more professional Nola that understand kind of how he could pitch and be effective here. He's a good 4 starter.
On the flip side, what's interesting is that while most people see the name Sandy Alcantara and they think, oh, good pitcher, there's a lot of Phillies who have good numbers in their career against him. Luis Arias, Alec Bohm, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner. Also, you guys talk about the fact that even Trey Turner, maybe this is what gets him out of his slump, right? Maybe facing a guy that he's familiar with. So I'm very curious to see what happens tonight, Alec.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's Alec Bohm hits 378 against him. I mean, Luis Arias hit 500 against him, but they've only faced 8 times. He's 4 for 8. Look, the numbers are impressive. Harper has 3 home runs against him. Realmuto has 2 home runs against him, and then Trey Turner has a couple of home runs and a 362 average. Look, Alcantara has been pitching really, really well over the last few weeks. So I don't think this is going to be, if we're going to win this game, this is going to be a lower scoring affair than if we expect to win this game. This might be a 4-3 game or maybe 5-3 or something like that. I won't guarantee you this one as I guarantee the last 2 games that we won. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. It's the last game of the series. We could sweep the Marlins. Imagine sweeping back the Twins and the Marlins back to back. It's not going to be an easy game. This team, the Marlins are a prideful team, and I believe they're going to give a battle, and Alcantara will be one of the keys for them to remain in the game. So I'm expecting this is going to be a very interesting game tonight at Citizens Bank Park.
It's also a very interesting game because you have a day off tomorrow. So in some ways, you don't have to worry about managing the bullpen like you would a normal night, right? Oscar, you can go out there and, just be like, hey, Nola, give us what you got. We'll go to the bullpen. We'll burn through it. We got a day off tomorrow. We'll reset for Friday.
Yeah, yesterday I liked that McFarland was able to win the first game of his career. I think one of the most interesting things happened today. They signed Nelson Cortez. Yep. Nelson is a very, very interesting guy. He's a guy that has been he looks older, or you would imagine that he's older. He's going to be 32 in a few days, in about a week or so. He's going to be 32 years old. He's 31 years old. Actually, no, he's date of birth is in December, so he's going to be 31st from now till the end of the year. I thought he was older. He has a lot of experience. He has not pitched as well as I would ideally want him to pitch since 2024. In 2025, he had a torn tendon on his arm, and he went under the knife, and now he's back up pitching with us. I think he's a veteran that he's like the 5th starter that we didn't sign, but he also can pitch in relief. So I can expect him, being a veteran that he is, that he could help us in the bullpen in the postseason, and he could be a very, very effective pitcher coming out of the pen. So I like the veteran presence. I like he's a great competitor. I mean, he brings a lot of the intangible that Arise bring in terms of edge and passion and energy. I like what I'm seeing. I think this guy could be a great ass, like an ace under the or a joker that came out under the sleeve there at the last minute. And I like this move. I do like this move. Look, the guy might not be able to pitch. I don't know yet, but I like the aggressiveness of the front office trying to make a difference in the postseason. Maybe they send Sugar down, and then or I don't know if Lazar is still up, but I think he went down. But I would not. McFarland remains up here. McFarland, to me, he has such great potential that you got to keep him here. I would send Sugar down.
Before I let you go, Alex, you do have a shout out coming up on the YouTube. Francisco there shouting you out.
All right, Francisco Macias from Mexico. How about that? Hey, we're bringing an international community. You can tell Mike now the Mexican team is watching him, so it's that's a great thing. Look, I do like Nestor Cortes. I think he's going to add a lot to this team. And the other thing, if you don't mind, Judge, letting people know, Foley's, the Philly store is open on 22nd and South. You can go to FoleyOnSouth.com and you can find all great merchandising from the Phillies, particularly all the championship merchandising. There's a lot of things with Chase Utley now that he made it to the Wall of Fame and hopefully to the Hall of Fame next year. So you go into FoleyOnSouth.com and get your gear.
Great stuff, Oscar. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Wonderful. We'll see you tomorrow. Go Phils. Hey, 6 in a row. Let's see. Come on, Nola. Nola have to pitch great. Go Phils.
Yes. Absolutely. Oscar, take care.
Take care.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN FM. And don't forget, every day, the Phillies Fastball, brought to you by Ventnor Social. It's the place to go to catch every Phillies game on their 20 big screen TVs while enjoying great food and drink. Visit their Facebook page for up-to-date info and specials. Plus, don't forget the Sports Bash will be back there on the 26th. That's next Wednesday. That is the next Phillies day game with Ventnor Social. Next Wednesday, they will be in Seattle playing the Mariners. So that game will be right in the heart of the Sports Bash next Wednesday. That's Ventnor Social, and they're happy to sponsor Phillies Fastball every day here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up, do you remember, as we wrap up the Sports Bash Wednesday edition, Josh Hennig hanging out with you, filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Go for the fun times and the tan lines. Experience an Atlantic City you never knew. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
The 5 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Cross County Connection, providing fare-free transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-7571 or visit driveless.com.
All right, Josh Hennig wrapping up the show here on 97.3 ESPN. Little Birdie tells me that it looks like Mike Gill's team had a come-from-behind win. So sources tell me that means they will be the number one seed in the playoff bracket. So one step closer to another youth baseball championship for Mike Gill's baseball team. We'll get you more updates as the week progresses. Josh Hennig been filling in for Mike Gill on a Hump Day Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash. Crazy busy day. I'm so glad you all tuned in to join us. If you missed any of the conversations, of course, you can catch them all on YouTube at 97.3 ESPN. Thanks to Oscar Budejen, Dave Gallagher, Nick Earnshaw, Adam Caplan, Sal Palantonio, and the Athletics' Jacob Robinson for joining the show. And thanks to all of you tuned in to listen. I'll be back tomorrow filling in for another day for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN.